Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday. Tuesday? Feels later in the week. Jeez. It's only Tuesday? Tuesday, July 28th, 2026. Welcome to today's edition of the Owen Report, the Groundhog Day Report. What do we got today, guys? Let's see. We got a war. We got a war in Iran. We control the strait. We've won the war. We've got a war in Ukraine. We got a bunch of war propaganda. That's all fine and good. I guess maybe we'll have something new to talk about tomorrow when Fauci is forced to testify. But I'm going to tell you to hold any expectations for tomorrow. I'm gonna request that you hold any expectations, at least as far as an arrest or justice is concerned. Wouldn't be expecting any justice, and I'll tell you why. Now, that doesn't mean that tomorrow's hearing isn't going to be interesting, to say the least, because there is a lot at stake and there is a lot at play. But there's a reason why Anthony Fauci is safe. And I don't think it's the auto pen pardon. I don't think that's the reason why Fauci is safe. But we'll get a little bit into that. We're going to get some comments from President Trump today. We're going to look at the status of the war, the administration. Of course, it's a strange day. It really is a strange day. We're calling it War Monger Day. I really don't think there's anything else to explain today other than War Monger Day. Of course, you have Lindsey Graham, who was a massive warmonger. I won't go disrespectful towards the dead today as he's being memorialized. I think everybody knows who Lindsey Graham was and what he represented. But he was a warmonger. There was not a war that Lindsey didn't support or didn't try to bring Trump into. He bragged about that in his final days, that he also spent in a war zone. He spent warmongering. So you got Lindsey Graham being memorialized, big warmonger. You've got Zelensky in town, big warmonger. You've got Netanyahu in town, the warmonger. The number one warmonger, maybe. Or at least he represents the number one warmongering nation state. So it's Warmonger Day. And then you've also got Laura Loomer now. I'm guessing she got paid nicely for this propaganda. We have a report on that. We have a claim on that. It's very interesting, by the way. There's a whole twist to the Loomer sellout today. It's really, you thought you knew how big of a political whore Laura Loomer was, but wait till you hear this today. It's even worse. But she's saying, hey, look at these drones. Is this the same drone factory that Lindsey Graham was in? She's holding up a drone and displaying a drone, and she's saying, for Lindsey, we're going to kill Russians. And then I guess MAGA's just turned into warmongers too, or whatever the current brand of MAGA is. I'm actually kind of docile considering all of this today. You might think I'd be getting a little hot under the collar on a news day like today. No, I'm rather docile. When I see the demons popping up like this, when we have the demons exposing themselves, the demons that work inside of our political media, the demons that work inside of our government, it actually kind of gives me calm. It gives me calm. It's when the demons are hiding. It's when the demons are deceiving. It's when you go out and you have to provoke the demons, expose the demons. That's when I get a little bothered. That's when I get a little boisterous. When the demons expose themselves, I'm kind of relaxed. I'm like, oh, this is great. Everybody can see these monsters now. I don't have to expose them. So that's kind of what War Monger Day is. That's kind of what War Monger Day is. So we will hear from Trump. I'll tell you, Zelensky, rather silent so far. Not really hearing much from Zelensky. Now, the meetings that Trump was having with the foreign leaders were all behind closed doors. We did get some comments from Netanyahu afterwards. Now, it's pretty clear. I think Netanyahu and Trump have an understanding that whatever they say to their people, whatever they say to their media, it doesn't really matter. So when Trump comes out, and I do have the audio today, when Trump comes out and says, there would not be Israel without us. I'm the savior of Israel. He knows that, Netanyahu is going to know Trump is just, he's just talking to the media, whatever. It doesn't really mean anything. And then when Netanyahu goes and brags to the Israeli media about how, I came here to make the demands and make the orders about the war with Iran, like he's running the whole show. I think both of them have an understanding, because there's this interpretation today looking at the rhetoric coming out of Trump, looking at the rhetoric coming out of Netanyahu, and people are saying, oh, they're souring on one another. Oh, they're going different directions. No, guys, no. No, they have an understanding that they're going to say stuff to the media. They're going to say stuff to their public, and it means nothing. It means nothing to them, and it's all about narrative control. It's all about press releases. So I don't think there's any issue there. I think that's just, they understand, hey, I lie to my people, you lie to your people. Sometimes we tell the truth. Maybe it looks bad, whatever. I don't think they really think about it. So I'm not really buying into that. There's a story I'm going to highlight today that is not getting much attention. Maybe you've heard about this, but it's not really getting too much attention in the American media. The war, I guess it's all the same war now, whether it's Ukraine or whether it's Iran, it's all slowly merging into one. And that's kind of what this War Monger Day represents in a way. But Europe is also experiencing record high gas prices. And it's even worse in Europe because they don't have the energy freedom, independence, and power that we have, obviously. So it's even worse when energy costs go up for them. Now, maybe the reason why it doesn't translate when the price per gallon goes up in America, that's big news. Everybody's driving. In Europe, maybe it's not as big of an issue. And yet they are having these record prices. And so what's the point? The point is that, well, I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead and slice and dice it for you right here. Let me just go ahead and slice, dice, and serve it up for you right here. Here's the story. You have Americans and you have Europeans. And maybe for the sake of this, it's worth mentioning, these are white countries. These are majority white countries, just like Ukraine, by the way, and just like Russia, by the way. So you've got all of these white countries that are at a war right now. And maybe you could say that NATO has interests in the outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war. Maybe you could make that case. People have been trying to make the case that white Christian Americans or any Christian Americans have interest in the Middle East or interest in the fate of Israel. This is slowly waning. But here's the situation. If you want to just make generic observations that are statistically true, it's this. White people around the world are paying for another war in the Middle East. And not only are they paying for it with their tax dollars, they're paying for it with their blood, and they're paying for it with their treasure. And that's what it is. Let's just say it. Let's just slice it, dice it, and serve it right up for you fresh here at the start of the Owen Report. So now white Christian countries have their highest energy costs ever. White Christian countries are involved in foreign conflicts that they're paying for and dying in. And then they have to sit here and get henpecked, and they have to sit here and get lectured about how they're the bad guys, and they're all these different isms and ists And they're just looking up at the establishment and just saying, I'm tired, boss. I'm tired, boss. Can we get some relief? Can you think of us? Can you think of our people, our country's people? We really don't care what color they are. We really don't care what denomination they are. We just want our people taken care of. We just need a break, please. We need a break from the foreign interests. We need a break from the foreign wars. Can us Western countries, can the Western Christian countries get a break from the rest of the world's nonsense just for like maybe a decade? Maybe. A whole generation would really appreciate it if we get a generation, but just a decade. You know, we're tired, man. We're tired. But no. We have to sit here and watch the warmongers come to town and praise Lindsey Graham. We have to watch the warmongers go out in the media and tell you how great these wars are going and how we need more dead. And in this process, we get to watch the demons that exist in our media. We get to watch the demons that exist in our politics expose themselves for the demons that they are. And, you know, it hits me watching this today. And I do wonder if you agree with this conclusion. I'm mixed about it myself. But it was really sticking in my head today. I couldn't stop this from rattling around in my head all day long. How is it that the neocon right and the pro-war right is any better than the abortion left? Honestly. And again, I'm not so, it's like, yeah, I'm still kind of working with that. I'm still not even sure if I agree with that, but it's been sitting in my head all day. I can't get this thought out of my head as I'm watching all of this happen, and I'm saying, what is the real difference between the demons in the neocon right and the demons in the abortion left? There really doesn't seem to be much at all. It's just the methods and mechanisms of the death process that I guess they disagree with, because they both seem to love death. They both celebrate death. They can't get enough innocent death. They love the innocent death. They just love the death of the innocent. They love bathing in the blood of the innocent, these demons. But I don't really, it's like you don't really see or hear from the abortion left right now. But filling that void is the neocon warmonger right, and they are just as demonic and just as despicable. And I'm wondering what the difference really is. That one's a little heavy, isn't it? Oh, that one's going to sting the people on the right that think they got it all figured out. That one's going to hurt them and hit them hard. Yeah. If you're part of the neocon right, you're really no better than the pro-abortion left. So maybe you should think about that when you consider what war you want to support that's going to result in tens of thousands of more dead people. Maybe think about that. So, by the way, as I've gone long in the intro here, bad job by me, because we got two guests coming up today. We're going to be joined by Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. We're going to look at some poll numbers, some polling data that is coming out today, foreign policy, economics, and then Steve Baker on, Steve's got a lot of stories he's breaking right now. So he's got some exclusives on the January 6th pipe bomber, but Steve also has a story that has kind of been festering, and I've brought some other guests on in the past, and we've talked about this, and we kind of teased this for a year, and then it came out about Corey Mills. But there's kind of this, I don't know, I'm going to let Steve tell the story. My interpretation is the right wing they don't want to do this work on Corey Mills right now. They want to avoid the Corey Mills story, and maybe that's because he's a Republican. But there's some weird stuff going on there, and Steve Baker is going to be joining us to break it down. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Cove Pure Water Filtration System. All right, now let me just say, guys, as you know, I drink filtered water. The Cove Pure Water Filtration Systems, This is the official water filter of the Owen Report. But I have to tell you, I saw these studies, and I want to read this right here. And there's actually a video to go along with this from Wall Street Apes. Lab testing of bottled waters available at 7-Eleven shows a large amount of contaminants. And so it goes through all of these different bottled waters. Anybody can go pick them up from a 7-Eleven gas station, all the different brands that they have there. They found chromium in the majority of the water. They found forever chemicals in the majority. This is bottled water, by the way. Some of them had bromate. It was really unbelievable, the stuff that they found. And this is in bottled water. So, you believe you're getting bottled water, you're getting better water, and yet there's still the issues. They still test these bottled waters, and they find all kinds of chemicals and the stuff you don't want to drink. So you can't even really rely on that for clean water. So you need clean drinking water. You need clean drinking water at your house. That is what the Cove Pure water filtration system is for. Reverse osmosis filtration technology, and it realkalizes the water before you drink it. The temperature is customizable. That's right. The temperature is customizable. This thing is right out of the future. Get your Cove Pure water filtration system today at covepure.com/Owen. And in honor of America's 250th birthday, you can get $250 off your water filtration system. You heard that right. For America's 250th birthday, Cove Pure is offering $250 off these water filtration systems for a limited time. Get it while the offer's hot at covepure.com/Owen.
On the cutting edge of news and analysis, the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer. Play the game, kid.
Sometimes you kind of have to remind yourself of where you've been to understand where you're at. We've actually got a couple of those stories today. I've got a wild story today that I doubt you'll see anywhere else in the media today. And everybody's kind of distracted by the circus happening in D.C. today. I've got a wild vaccine story today, guys. I can't even believe this one. Like, get out the clown horns, guys. We are fully in the clown world right now. I mean, it is a damn three-ring circus happening in American politics. And you know what? I actually saw in the chat before the show, because I kind of agree. My plan was I was thinking about doing a new show intro for August and going along with kind of the new theme, the new colors of the show, since we've been doing the clown world, I think, for a couple months now. But the clown world still remains. We're still in the clown world. So maybe we just put that on pause and bring in a new one for a limited time. But no, it's just, this stuff is so clownish. You kind of, to a certain degree, just like put your hands in the air and say, I'm out. I'm out. If this is the level of clown world that we're engaged in right now, I'm out. I can't do it. So wait till you see this vaccine story that I got. But no, you have to remember where you've been. You guys, in fact, let me get an exact date on this. When did Trump start the Board of Peace? So that was last September. All right. So about 10 months ago. I guess you could say maybe exactly 10 months ago. It was initially presented on September 29th, 2025. And then they had the big Board of Peace photo op in January of 2026. And they got Board of Peace fast. I mean, wow. So Trump literally collected $12 billion. So he launches this Board of Peace, collects $12 billion, and then starts a new war. What in the hell is going on, guys? I mean, this thing is such a joke. But you know what's not funny? This is not funny. These are all the dead soldiers, at least that we know of, 18 of them, that have died in this recent war with Iran, Trump's war, Israel's war, Netanyahu's war, the foreign lobby's war. We all know what it is. We all know what these Americans were sacrificed for. It doesn't matter if Ben Shapiro wants to say, hey, they deserve it, they volunteered. Fuck him. He can go fight these wars if he loves them so much. So it's really not funny. But there's this disconnect clearly between the DC world and the rest of the country. And to them, it seems like it is just a game. And maybe even specifically for Trump. Trump doesn't even seem to be in reality at all anymore. I'm really still not even sure what to make of it. Either Trump just totally sold us out. I mean, just completely rug pulled us on an entire movement that ended up being totally rug pulled or a deception, or Trump's just lost his mind. The guy has just completely lost his mind. I really don't know what else. I don't know how else to sum this up. And you know what? I'll also tell you this. There are a lot of loyalists that are around Trump. And they're more than just loyalists because now they're acting as a protectorate. And I've seen this before. I'm very familiar with how this works. Whether it's pragmatism or whether it's just a necessity, they have to protect Trump. But there are certain loyalists, there are certain people that are still in the Trump circle, let's say, that are starting to talk a little more candidly with other members of the media and with other friends. And it's not stuff that's meant to be on record, but let's just say things are starting to break. Things are starting to break in the Trump protectorate because even the people surrounding him that do care about him and want to protect him, even they are starting to realize this thing is completely off the rails and they don't even know what he's thinking anymore. They're not even sure what the hell he's thinking or doing anymore. And I'm not sure if he does either. Because this thing is just completely off the rails. Now let's go to some statements from Trump. He's got a call into Fox News this morning, get some narrative control going. So that was Trump's morning. He calls into Fox News and he's talking about the Strait of Hormuz.
Get through. Iran doesn't control the strait. We control the strait. Now, they can drop a couple of mines in there and screw things up, but we control the strait. Our Navy is incredible. Not one ship has gotten to Iran during any time where we had the blockade. So we had the blockade, get through.
All right, so it's still we run the strait. That's still the claim here, is that we control the strait. Who knows? Who knows? You know, it's just like, does anybody really know? Because there's all kinds of stories of ships getting through. There's all kinds of stories of ships getting bombed. There's all kinds of stories of China working with Iran. There's all kinds of stories of extra taxes to get through that Iran is charging. And Trump said, oh, we're going to do that, but that revenue has not come in. So what is he even talking about? Why is it that Trump has to go out there every week and tell you we control the strait? Doesn't really seem like that. Doesn't really feel like that. Does it feel like we control the strait? Does it feel like we have total command over the strait right now? It's not feeling that way. And if it was that way, why are we talking about Karg Island? If it was that way, why are we talking about the Pickaxe Mountains again? Oh, and golly gee, I'm sure this whole war is going to be a deterrent for Iran wanting to have a nuclear weapon. Oh, yeah, after this, they're definitely going to say we don't want or need a nuke, as of course, Israel and America are threatening to nuke them. I'm sure that's a very convincing argument. You know, like when the thief comes up to you and points a gun at you and says, give me your wallet, you're like, oh, thank God I don't have a gun right now. It's not like the first thought that comes to your head when a bad guy points a gun at you and you're unarmed. It's not like the first thing that you think is, gee, I wish I had a gun. You know, self-defense. I'm sure that's how Iran is feeling. Hey, Israel and America are threatening to nuke us. Golly gee, I'm so glad we don't have a nuke. I'm so glad we're not like Russia that has avoided this and North Korea that has avoided this because they have nukes. Yeah, we should definitely not have a nuke. This is fun. I like being at constant war with Israel. It's great. We're not going to have a nuke. Okay. So that's the logic they want you to fall for there. Because it was such an issue, guys. Iran has been such the issue here that Trump had to stop it. It was so out of control that Trump had to stop it. It had nothing to do with the Israeli lobby. It had nothing to do with Netanyahu. It had nothing to do with Marian Adelson. It had nothing to do with the Israeli lobby and all of their hundreds of millions of dollars they spend every election cycle. No, it's because Iran was just out of control. It's what every American was thinking. Trump finally is able to do something about it. Okay, so that's just your wind-up Trump doll. We control the Strait of Hormuz. Just wind him up. We're in total control of the Strait of Hormuz. He's turning into a wind-up doll. Or a pull string doll. You pull the string on Trump. We control the Strait of Hormuz. We have won the war against Iran. It was actually never a war. Well, that one is just the wind-up doll Trump. When I hear this one is a little deeper.
They don't make a deal, then I go back and I finish the job. But that's going to take them forever to rebuild. Already, it'll take them many years to ever rebuild. And if I go back and finish up the job, as some people would like, with the bridges, with the very easy, I could take out most.
Now, see, he says that some people would like. Oh, golly, I wonder who those people are. Who do you think is in Trump's ear every day telling him to blow up Iran? Who do you think is in Trump's ear every day telling him he needs to bomb Iran and bomb them again and keep bombing them until there's nothing left to bomb and there's no more bombs left to drop? I wonder who they is. Trump says they want me to bomb Iran. I wonder who they is. It's such a mystery.
To their bridges in less than an hour. Less than an hour. But, you know, it takes them 10 years to build a bridge. Bridges take the longest, and power plants.
China has been working with Iran. They've rebuilt multiple bridges in a day. So Trump might be confused. He might think he's talking about Baltimore. Somehow Iran is more advanced than Baltimore. Somehow Iran and the Chinese communists can rebuild bridges in a day that the U.S. military knocks down. China and Iran have rebuilt these bridges in a single day. So when he says it takes years, is he talking about Baltimore? How does that feel, by the way, that Iran and China can rebuild a bridge faster than Baltimore, faster than our own country? And doesn't that kind of put it all into perspective? Doesn't it really? It kind of tells the whole story, really, of our foreign policy and our domestic policy. China, we can bomb a bridge in Iran. We don't need a congressional vote. We don't need approval. Hell, we don't even need to give you a good reason. We just pull something out of our ass and say, hey, we got to bomb them. They don't like your freedom. They're Muslim. Okay, bomb them. So we can just bomb these bridges. No resistance, no struggle session in Congress. Yeah, just go bomb them. Okay, so we can go bomb a bridge. And then China and Iran can go in there and repair the bridge that we just bombed. And we can't even build a bridge in Baltimore. In fact, you could argue that that bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, this was one of the main bridges. This is one of the main roads in Baltimore. And it's been down for more than a year. I mean, that is the current status of our country right there. It's like, how do you explain the current status of America? Well, we are such a superpower that we can bomb a bridge as many as we want on the other side of the planet. We can bomb these bridges anytime we want, anytime we need. We can take these bridges out. And then China and Iran can come in and rebuild them in 24 hours, and we'll bomb them again. And this cycle can continue about 100 times before we can rebuild a bridge in Baltimore, before we can rebuild one of the most important bridges in that part of the country, in Baltimore, Maryland. We can't do that, but we can go through a cycle of bombing and repairs 100 times on the other side of the planet before we can rebuild our own bridge. That is everything we're dealing with right there in a nutshell. And this is why it's so frustrating right now, dealing with this administration, dealing with the MAGA cult. What happened to you guys? Where did you guys lose your way? Did you forget that you're Americans? Did you forget that we live in the land of opportunity and we're blowing our opportunity up on the other side of the planet again? Did you forget who you are? Did you forget who Trump was? Did you forget what the entire purpose of the last 10 years of this movement was about? What happened to you? What are you doing? We should be living in a paradise. American metropolitan cities, metropolitan areas should be paradise. Our cities on the beaches should be paradise, should be tourist central. Our suburban areas, our rural areas, our farmlands, these should be pristine. This should be the best country in the world by far. Now people have to debate it. And this is exactly why. Because we've got $500 billion for another war or two, and we can't even rebuild a damn bridge. And where's MAGA? Where are you guys? What happened? You're gone. You're off the field. You're playing with the foreign lobby. You're playing with big tech. You're playing with the surveillance state. What are you doing? What happened to you guys? You don't need us. You're right. We need you. We need you to save the country. We lost you guys. We lost you guys somewhere along the way. Was it the money? Was it the fame? Was it the fortune? Was it the access? Was it the glitz? Was it the glamour? Have you been searching for this high since high school and now you finally have it and you don't even know what to do with it? What happened, guys? What happened? We're supposed to be rebuilding our country. We're supposed to be saving our country. We're supposed to be dealing with our problems right now, first. And we're right back in the Middle East. And now we're building a surveillance state. And you guys like it. And you guys support it. And you're looking at us like we're the crazy people. Let's go back to Trump.
A second. I could knock out the power plants. Within one day, all of their power plants would be gone. And I let them know that, with negotiations. I said, look, people want me to do that. I think I get almost the same thing out of it as doing it. But the problem is they'll never be able to, I think about 91 million people without power, without bridges, would have to live. And it's a very, very delicate balance. Yeah. So I think we have a very strong position right now. They know I'm going to do that if they don't make a deal. The bridges are going to be gone. Literally in less than, I would say in 2 hours, most of the bridges, the major bridges will all be gone.
So this is the no new wars president. This is the I'm not taking the foreign lobby money president. This is the America first president. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. Eventually MAGA will catch up. Eventually the people will catch up. They always do. They catch up to us on everything else. We're always first to the barbed wire on everything. So eventually they'll be there too. But I couldn't help, as I'm listening to this, I've got another clip of Trump here coming up. And I actually made this analogy. I made this analogy before. And it hit me again listening to that. And then also with, it kind of ties into even the Odyssey, because really that's what this is kind of an analogy of. Whether it's Odysseus going to fight the war to end all wars, only to come home and realize that his home has been destroyed. So he won the biggest war, but he lost his country. He won the big prize, but he lost everything that mattered to him. That's not meaning to be a spoiler here, but that's the conclusion of the Odyssey. And quite frankly, this is why so many people don't like the movie, because they don't even get it. And I'm not even trying to be mean. People are just too dumb to even understand the meaning behind these movies. That's the whole thing. And his wife, it's like, I see these people making fun of the wife character. It's like, no, she stayed loyal. She still believed. If it wasn't for her being loyal, if it wasn't for her still believing, then there would have been nothing left to save. When he came back, the fact that she was there meant that there was still something to save. So he has to come back after winning the big war and losing everything else. Now he has to come back home and fix it. It's the same thing in the movie Troy. Trump is like, he goes to destroy Troy and he destroys everything in the process. He's like Agamemnon, goes to destroy Troy, but destroys everything and dies in the process. It's like, that's what we're witnessing right now. It's like, this is the big war. This is the big thing. This is the one to end it all. And we're going to do it. We're still losing our country, guys. Nobody's fixing the situation here. There's no attention being paid here. And you know what? This is the realization. This is the ultimate truth. And if there's any video clippers out there that like to post the show on X or on your channel, this is the thing from today. This is what you need to be clipping and posting today. This is what everybody needs to understand. The reason why you're not getting mass deportations is because the mass deportation lobby doesn't have as much money as the Israeli lobby. The reason why you're not getting no new wars is because the no new wars lobby doesn't have as much money as the Israeli lobby. The reason why you're not getting election integrity or justice is because the election integrity and justice lobby doesn't have as much money as the Israeli lobby. You want to know why you're getting big pharma and big ag pushed down your throat by this administration? Because the Make America Healthy Again lobby doesn't have as much money as the big pharma and the big agriculture lobby. You want to know why you're not having anything done about censorship online and addressing the issues of the past and the issues that still remain on censorship? Because the free speech lobby doesn't have as much money as the big tech lobby. You want to know why America's interests continue to fall second? Because Americans don't have as much money as the Israeli lobby. And if Trump, at the end of this term, has proven one thing to be the final thing, it is that money controls politics. And if you don't have money, you don't get any control. And that's what this second administration has been all about. A complete 180 from what Trump was supposed to be. A complete 180 on the man that we elected in 2016 and ran to win in 2024. A complete subversion of the entire MAGA movement that has now been co-opted and redirected. The credo of nationalism, not globalism, is now globalism, no nationalism. This is the reality. This is the truth. And the sooner you accept that, the quicker it's going to be to turn this thing around and get it fixed. But the longer you pretend like Trump is the guy you elected, or Trump is the guy from 2016, or the America First agenda is getting results and delivering, the longer you live in that fantasy land, the worse this is going to get. And I don't want it to have to get so bad as it did with Biden. I don't want it to have to get that bad, but it might get worse. It's going to get worse if Republicans and conservatives don't pull their head out of their ass and realize what a disaster this administration has been. But guess what? The people that run the administration, they have so much money that it doesn't even affect them, and they don't even care. And this is really what the people have to understand here. The reason why the Trump administration doesn't give a damn that you can't afford the current cost of living is because it doesn't even register to them. They've never even lived in a situation where they haven't been able to afford anything. They've never even experienced that. They can't relate to it. It's not even real to them. They hear you complaining about gas prices. They hear you complaining about grocery prices. Folks, it doesn't even register. They literally cannot even comprehend that going to buy gas could break you. They can't even comprehend it. It doesn't exist to them. I'm ranting. I'm sorry. This rant was brought to you by Crash Out Energy. But it's like, what? You want more of the news? I got more of the news. You can do the news all day long. We're at war again, guys. What else do you want to know? You're at war again. Neocons took over MAGA. Socialists are taking over the Democrat Party. You're not getting anything that you voted for. So, hey, if you want to go out onto the football field and wave the pom-poms and do the high leg kicks, go ahead, man. Go ahead. Just let us know when you guys are ready to get serious. Just let us know if that's ever the case. So here's this audio that has everybody thinking that Trump and Netanyahu are or Trump is distancing himself from Netanyahu. By the way, what he says here is true, though.
It's the hottest country anywhere in the world. And frankly, we're being very nice to a lot of countries that would not survive without us. And you know who wouldn't survive without us?
Yeah, why are we still doing that, Trump? We can barely survive. Why are we still being nice to these countries that would never return the favor? Why are we still being nice to these countries as our country is not so nice right now?
Without us, Israel. Bibi's coming, he'll tell you. Without us, Israel. And you know who wouldn't survive without us? Israel. Bibi's coming, he'll tell you.
No, he won't tell you. In fact, he denies that. So Trump says Israel wouldn't survive without the United States, which is obviously true. The United States, guys, it's just like, all right, all right. You know what, guys? It's actually just funny. Imagine it's Tuesday, July 20th. Can you believe it's almost August, guys? Start acting accordingly. I hope you've enjoyed your summer because it's almost over. Can you imagine, like, thinking you're politically informed, or, you know, you're in modern politics, you know, you're in politics in 2026. You're a pundit, you're in the media, and not understanding that Israel controls your Congress? Like, they still think it's some sort of conspiracy theory. They still think it's some sort of crackpot anti-Semite cope. And it's just like, dude, open your eyes, man. Open your eyes. Pull your head out of your ass. Like, this is out of control. This is nuts. You're back in the Middle East, and Netanyahu is here for the 8th time. No other foreign leader has come to the White House 8 times. Netanyahu's done it in less than 2 years. And we're back in the Middle East. And all you hear about from Republicans is how important it is to support Israel. Like, Hello. What are the most expensive House races in American political history? The races where AIPAC pours tens of millions in to unseat the candidate that won't vote for Israel's wars. Hello. Like, wake up. You guys are finally catching up that they stole the election. You guys are finally catching up that Fauci was a criminal fraud. You guys finally caught up to us after 8 years of us supporting Trump. We have finally caught up in 2024. Like, can you catch up now, please? We've got like 98 days, I believe, till the midterms. That could be 98 days of the chance that we have to save this country politically, okay? Do you understand that? That's how serious this is. We've got 98 days to potentially save this country and get this administration back on track. Or you can spend the next 98 days letting big tech and the Israeli lobby run this administration and then hand the country over to the Democrats and the communists and the Islamists in the midterms. That's where this is at. So what do you want to do? You want to continue to play in the sandbox? You want to continue to play in the quicksand? You want to continue to let the foreign lobby run your government? Put your military men and women overseas to die? You want to spend another $500 billion in the Middle East? Is that what you want to do with your last 100 days to save the country potentially? Remember, that's where we were at. That's where we were at right before the election in 2024. Nothing's happening. Is that what you want to do with your final 100 days? You want to build a big tech surveillance state? Is that what you want to do? You want to support flock cameras? You want to support data centers? Is that what you guys really want to do here? You got 98 days potentially to save this country politically. 98 days. And if you guys really want to spend the next 98 days in a war in the Middle East, and if you really want to spend the next 98 days supporting flock cameras and data centers and an AI surveillance state, watch people run to the polls to vote for Democrats. Watch them sprint to the polls to go vote for Democrats. Watch them crawl over broken glass to go pull the lever for Democrats in the midterms. We've been trying to warn you and avoid this for over a year. And now you've got 98 days. And all you have to show for this administration is higher energy costs, another war in the Middle East, and a big tech surveillance state. And you got 98 days to either change course or fuck off. But it looks like you've already made your choice. You're going to fuck off and you're going to take the money and run. And then you're going to sit here in 100 days scratching your head and pointing the finger at everybody else. All right. Boy, that's a crash out if I ever saw one. All right, well, that crash out was brought to you by Crash Out Energy, the official energy drink of the Owen Report. For mental energy, mental clarity, 200 milligrams of caffeine in every scoop. There's nothing else like it on the market. Crash Out Energy. It gives you the energy, the focus, and it's good for you. Get yours today at crashout.energy.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
Navigating between the sane and insane, it's the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
All right, we're into the second hour of today's Owen Report. Got a little heated there in the first hour, but, you know, it's War Monger Day. It's War Monger Day, so you're allowed a little passionate crash out on War Monger Day, right? Got all the warmongers in D.C., so you're allowed a little bit of leeway to rant and rave. I think it's only fair. All right, I want to go. You know, we are looking at the polls, which are very indicative of one thing that remains true. As we're joined now by Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, joining us today. Rich, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Owen. It's good to be here.
You know, Rich, there's one thing that remains true no matter who is in power. And I don't know if you saw, there's a new approval rating for the Supreme Court today. It's not very good. Go figure. But Rich, why is it that all of the things that Americans seem to agree on, you know, we want lower taxes, we want out of the Middle East, you know, all the things that are basically nonpartisan. Why is it that we never get these things, Rich? It seems like the issues that poll well amongst the American people don't do well in D.C. What's up with that?
I think it's the same reason that, you know, you ever hear people say, well, it's just a midterm, it's an incumbent midterm, and that party always does bad in incumbent midterms. That's actually not true. That's a modern phenomenon. Coalitions have ruled for 30 years or more in this country. Before, we had long periods of Republican domination, followed by the Roosevelt era, long periods of that. I think that's the same reason. We have a special interest lobby in this country that has grown more and more powerful, and the system is captured, Owen. I mean, it doesn't matter if someone is genuine, like even if Barack Obama was ever genuine, right? And he hoped to bring real change into DC. By the time he got there, it became clear really quickly that there was no hope for any real change, and it all went down the drain. And the reaction of setbacks that they suffered electorally were from disappointment of him not delivering. It gets worse as time goes on, because after a while, people don't get what they want. You're going to see more and more people like carve out this larger middle or this larger consensus, which is what Trump's coalition in 24 started to do. And the more that becomes, you know, different than what is happening in DC, the more unstable things are going to get, man. But I think we're just at a point now where we're seeing it's an artifact of the system. The lobby's in control, not the voter. So we're just having this pendulum swing back and forth more frequently now, more than ever in our history. And eventually, you know, at some point, I'm getting concerned what it's going to lead to, because you have to have the public has to get what they want at some point. That's the release valve. That's that's what turns down the pressure in society. And we've had a prolonged period of that not happening now.
Well, and what's ironic about that is I think the left is actually going to start delivering on what the voters want. Yeah, and, you know, it's going to be socialism, right? I mean, it's going to be open borders. It's going to be socialism. It's not going to be anything that we like. But I get the feeling that the left is actually going to be serious about it, where the right wing, at least at this point, seems it was never serious about the things that Trump ran on or that they used to care about. And so, yeah, I think that you point out the obvious, right? I mean, I asked you the question, you knew the answer already. It's the special interest. It's the lobby. They run everything in D.C., and Trump was supposed to push back against it. And I do want to get into some of this polling data with you. But since you brought that up, I want to go down this road a little bit more with you. And I'm curious because it kind of ties into the polling data. I know, you know, when I see a lot of the people on the right attacking me now, it's like they don't understand that I've kind of already been there. I was never really on the right. You know, I was always more of an anti-establishment, maybe labeled conspiracy theorist type. You know, Trump pops up and he kind of built this big coalition. And people like me were rather a large part of this coalition. But I think the mismeasurement right now in DC amongst all of these old heads, and I think the mismeasurement amongst the Trump administration, is they think people like me are a small minority. And what they fail to recognize is that people like me represent maybe closer to 30% of your voting base now. Maybe somebody like me 15 years ago, even maybe 10 years ago, somebody like me might have represented 10 at the lowest, 20 at the highest. I'm like 30% of your voting base right here. And you've completely turned me off from right-wing politics. And I can assure you, from my experience, I'm not the only one. Does your polling data indicate that?
Yeah, you're about a third. And before, there's been a Washington Post article that came out this week, and it basically confirmed what we've been, those of us who actually tried to course correct this thing and not end up where we are now, because the end result of this will be Mamdani. So, these DSA guys are not fringe guys. They're just the tip of the spear of what's coming if MAGA ever failed, which it does look MAGA is failing very clearly to deliver for this group that you're talking about. But even in that report, they said about 1 in 5 they're worried about are not showing. But that doesn't account for the people that I talked about on election night of 24. Great job. You won. Now understand how you won, who those voters are that make up new MAGA. You have to turn them into higher propensity midterm voters. They have to be a core part of your coalition going forward, especially since the silent gen is almost dead. Boomers turn 80 this year. They're going to phase out real quick. So without the guys like you, and it is a key group, guys like me, millennials and down, men who are millennials and down, particularly, even though the women are a core part of this too. Trump did better with younger women. People forget this, but without that group, you're done. So if 1 in 5 they're worried about are not going to show up in the midterms that are high propensity, reliable voters, you add the group you're discussing on top of that, and you're looking at like 35% of what Republicans could ever hope to get out to the polls. It's a 5-alarm fire. It's a disaster. But even if you look at how badly the group that you're talking about could hurt Republicans in a general election over 10 years ago, that's the group that refused to come out for Mitt Romney. About 3.5 million of them were in the upper Great Lakes area in the Rust Belt region, and he got stomped. So I think a lot of these old dinosaurs in the Republican Party forgot they're losers. Brother, there's no reason to be nice about this. You guys are losers. You're professional losers who destroyed the Bush coalition of 04 was a strong coalition. It wasn't as strong as Trump's in 24, but it had the makings of something you could really build upon. They blew it within 2 years and completely destroyed it. And they only ever built it because the country was terrified over 9/11. It wasn't because they were selling something that people really wanted to buy. They just trusted Bush and Republicans to keep them safe at that time more than they trusted Democrats. But they annihilated it. Donald Trump comes around 10 years later, resurrects it like Jesus resurrects Lazarus out of the tomb, because it's dead, bro. That party's been in the tomb rotting now for days. And what do they do with it? What do they do with it? They walk it back. Trump is elected because the country rejected both Obama's version of populism because it was fake and Bushism. And Trump offered something new. The worst thing that could possibly happen to not only this country, but the movement that he represented in the coalition was for the party to perceive Donald Trump more like them. He needed to get the country to perceive the Republican Party more like him. And they did the complete opposite.
I've made that analogy before. Rich Barris is our guest here, the People's Pundit. Great follow on X, by the way. I made that analogy in a different way. I said, what has happened is the people like me, I was original MAGA. I went through the pain for 10 years, supporting Trump, going through everything I went through. And then what has happened in the last year and a half is all the people that just kind of showed up to cheer and showed up in the stands, all of a sudden they took our championship trophy and they're running around DC with it. And so that was the analogy I made. I was like, you just said it differently. You said they're losers. Yes, but they're losers that think they're the champions. They're losers that think that they are the ones that built this coalition. They're losers that think they are the ones that changed the hearts and minds. And I guess maybe you could say they're perhaps in for a rude awakening come the midterms. But it's funny that you would say that. I say it in a different way, but that's exactly what this is. That's the phenomenon we're witnessing, is a bunch of sideline cheerleaders thinking that they were players because, we let them touch the trophy after we had our victory. And instead they just ran off with the trophy and they're running victory laps. And we're sitting here saying, hey, we did the work. This is not how you win. Hey, we did the work. This is how you lose. Stop it. And then they call us panicans. And obviously the rest is history.
And how were they able to do that? I mean, that's your first question. That goes back to your first question. The losers in the Republican Party, and not the name drop or anything, but the neocons in the Republican Party, and they may have a younger generation that represents their view online and on social media and on Fox News. But guys, they don't have it in the electorate. It's a dying worldview. It's over for them. This is their last gasp. They have no hope to carry that worldview into the future. The way they were able to do this now is that Trump ran his campaign differently in 24 than he did in 16. Miriam Adelson did not give him $350 million in 2016. I mean, that matters. If you think money doesn't talk in politics,
no, Rich, he actually called out the Adelsons
against Rubio.
He called them out by name. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's how it happens. So how does a guy, I don't know. How does a guy who once supported everybody but Trump in the 2016 primary and then pretended to be a Trump supporter and jumped on the Fauci train? We have some news on Fauci this week, which is interesting. Jumped on the trust Fauci train in 2020, even though OG MAGA, a few of us were basically saying this is going to run your presidency off a cliff. It'll be the end of you. They'll expand mass mail-in voting and it'll be the end of you. You're cooked. How does a guy like that, who then goes on to support Ron DeSantis, even Nikki Haley, before he eventually comes over to Trump, how does he eventually get to, crown himself as the new MAGA and run around DC as an unregistered lobbyist, making a fortune and, trying to basically browbeat everybody on Twitter all day? I mean, that's how, because money does matter. And the lobbyists in DC are too strong. I mean, guys, it is really that simple. They are too strong. It was always going to take somebody like Donald Trump, who was strong enough to just say, I don't care, and do what he was going to do anyway. Unfortunately, in this administration, he has not done that. And for those of us who have, put it on the line for this, over the years, it sucks to watch. But just because you don't like it doesn't mean you should, put your head in the sand and pretend like it's not happening. It is happening. And if you want to have any hope to correct it, ignoring the problem, what do you want to sit on the Titanic and pretend like it's not going down? You get on that life raft if you want to be a panic, and I'm going to stay right here and go down with the ship and freeze in the water because the ship's not going down anyway. I don't know what you're talking about, panicking. I mean, that was not a valid strategy for them. It's not for you now.
I like that analogy, actually. That is a great analogy. They don't realize the Titanic is going down. They're just in complete denial, and they see people getting off the ship. Oh, you panicans. It's like, no, this is not it. You're going down with this ship. All right, that's your choice. Yeah. It's amazing because we're so most people are kind of actually on the same wavelength right now. Most people, from my experience, that's why I said it's like maybe 30%. This is what it's like when I go talk to people wherever the places I frequent, the restaurants, the gym, anywhere I usually go and see the same people. This is exactly how they're thinking. This is exactly how they're talking. And it's just that disconnect in DC. And I don't know if there's no voices in Trump's ear. I don't know if they're really just that detached or really they just don't care. But let's get into the polling. Now, I've got a couple things here. I don't want to spend too much time. I'd rather listen to you respond to this. I've got a CNN poll where they show that in the last 4 years, Americans' approval of Israel has had a 67-point swing in 4 years, 67-point swing. So obviously that's going from a negative to positive nationwide. There was another poll out today, Reuters Ipsos, only 33% of Americans support the war with Iran. And of course, obviously these things are all tied in. And I think that part of the reason why Israel is becoming so unpopular is because of our foreign policy. We all see how they control it now. And then also a new Economist YouGov poll found that Americans support arresting Netanyahu.
Yeah.
49% of Americans support arresting Netanyahu. In all your years of polling, has there ever been such a swing and a shift on a singular issue?
You know, Trump was good at moving the Overton window on immigration. If you're as old as I am and you remember how Bush was on immigration, and even in the post-Bush era, Romney, and then, even in 16 when he came along, what he would say sounded to the political class like it was crazy, but Trump moved that. But even that, Owen, he took a while to do that and get us to where we are now. Look, this is something that's been really funny and entertaining over the last year. There's a trend. We do the sympathy question, which is where do your sympathies lie more with? And we do that because Gallup and Pew, but Gallup really, they've been doing it for decades. So we just thought it was more instructive. Do your sympathies lie more with the Israelis in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, or did they lie more with the Palestinians? So you could say the Middle East conflict. Some people interchange it. And you could see Israel going down, but it was all an age signal. And we could predict based on the age signal how long it would take for Israel and Palestine to cross the streams, brother, and Israel to go under and Palestine to start rising. They had 6 to 8 years before they did what they did last year. They had an estimated 6 to 8 years of just on age signal and trends alone before they would go beneath the Palestinians on the sympathy question. I think two things happen. One, you're watching. I mean, there's just no nice way to say it. I decided to poll this question with the last time we did the sympathy question because we were hearing it so much in polling. Even young MAGA perceived what Israel did in Gaza as a genocide. And it was something that they just weren't willing to sign on to anymore. And, they're watching it live on TikTok. They're watching videos on X. They can see it. So the Fox News narrative was just falling apart. We didn't mean to kill those civilians. It was a mosque. They're using them as human shields. Meanwhile, young MAGA's going on TikTok and seeing IDF soldiers execute Palestinians on a daily basis. Unarmed Palestinians. I don't mean to laugh at that, but as his National Security Council knows, I've talked to them about this, why Israel was tanking the way it did. I talked to them last year about this. My solution was not to get Larry Ellison to buy TikTok and try to censor everybody on social media. My solution was that a minority cannot browbeat the majority in a submission, and you need to get some humility and re-engage MAGA because you're losing these people, even evangelicals, younger evangelicals. So that's one part of it. Israel's overreaction and their behavior alone was a critical part of this. The second part is more of that group we were talking about before. New MAGA, particularly young MAGA, and some of these voters that only Donald Trump seems to be able to get out. They view Israel as hijacking their last chance to turn this country around. And this is a narrative that people don't want to get through their heads, like the Ben Shapiro's and the rest of them. They just don't want to hear it. But I guess they can't understand the situation. They can't appreciate the dire economic situation that most of this country is in. If you're a millennial and down, especially, you come into the workforce, you get hit with 9/11, you get hit with the financial crisis, you get hit with the COVID lockdown scam. It's one thing after the other that prevents you from being able to build wealth, get a career, have a family, raise kids comfortably, live the American dream. You're looking at Trump and Vance, the peace ticket, remember them? The peace ticket as your last chance to right the ship before it goes down. And then in the summer of his first year, the Israel lobby comes into town and derails their agenda. And they're never going to forgive Israel for this. Let me just say this as clear as I could possibly say this. Israel is doomed in this country. They are a political pariah in the waiting. They are never going to be forgiven for what they have done, Owen. I'm not a huge fan of their agenda, but I can't tell you how many times and how many people I said, just wait until year 2. Wait until year 2 or year 3. Give them what they want so you can hold the coalition together. And also, you don't commit political suicide in this country by being a selfish, disgustingly selfish lobby. And they didn't listen. Instead, they tried to browbeat everybody. And now look at where they are. Last year, it was just like Mark Mitchell and I being the only ones who were saying, look at your favorability, look at your numbers now. Well, now everybody's doing it. Gallup, Pew, the rest of them followed. So it wasn't us just making hay out of nothing. It was a real trend. They didn't listen. And now they have a few years before they're not going to be able to win a Democratic primary. And soon it'll get worse in the Republican Party, which is a good thing, I guess,
Well, that's to be determined. I think some people are still kind of having that internal debate is
They are, yeah.
what is better for the country? Is it to keep Republicans in power and for this charade to continue? Is it to turn it over to the Democrats and let them go in there and just break this administration up because it has to be done? I think that's the real debate right now that people are having. It's funny though when you talk about that timetable, because that was part of the first hour today. It's crazy. We're so simpatico. I think what makes it even worse, Rich, is Israel kind of viewed it the same way. I think that the Israeli lobby and Netanyahu looked at that window of time the same way that we did. And they said, okay, Israel, we have 2 years basically to get everything that we want done, because they recognize as much as you do that they only have a limited amount of time before the numbers shift and they don't get to subsidize their entire country off of the U.S. taxpayer. Now, I did two things that happened. One, there was a viral interview I did with Pastor Greg Locke. It still goes viral to this day. That was in 2024, I believe. And I said, Israel is probably 2 or 3 election cycles away from getting no support politically. I said 2 or 3 election cycles away. That was 2024. So now it would be, I guess, 1 or 2. So it does look like that's the timetable. It could be 1. I mean, we could look at if the Democrats run anti-Israel and have massive victories on that, that's probably it. I mean, I don't know if the Israeli lobby has enough money to buy a losing ticket, right? I mean, people are just going to say, hey, you can give me as much money as you want. I'm going to lose. So if you want to fund my campaign, it's going to be a losing effort now. So we might see that in the midterms. Only time will tell. But there's also this, like, when we see the Ben Shapiros, when we see the Mark Levins, who are never Trumpers, who we had to beat in 2016 to get Trump in, and now we see their entitlement, and now we see their arrogance, and it's like, oh, no. Israel first is America first. I think there's a lot of people that, maybe they're positive, negative, neutral towards Israel. It's not really a big issue for them. They might have an idea about it or a thought, but they're not really focusing on it. It's the addition of what you just described as, hey, this was supposed to be our last shot. Now Israel's taken it. And it's the arrogance and the entitlement of all the Israel firsters in the media and in politics rubbing it in our face. To me, that's where the real, I don't want to say hatred, maybe vitriol, but it's like, to me, that's where this is coming from. It'd be one thing if it was just the lobbyists buying off our politicians and it's just like, okay, corrupt politics is normal. No, they're rubbing our face in it and they're saying, no, this is good for you. Israel first is what you need. This is what you want. And it's just like, why are you talking to me like that? I think it made it even worse, the entitlement.
Yeah, that can't help. And I think what we saw when last year was the browbeating and the attempt to put it back in the box. It wasn't going to happen. And then this year was the acceleration, the added acceleration, because they did realize, just so people understand, I'm not sure people know, but the entire Republican conference at the end of 2025 was briefed on these polls, and they were all told about their Israel problem, which is what they labeled that meeting basically. The administration knows it. I've seen studies conducted by the Israeli government that is talking about what are we going to do about this problem in the West. Unfortunately, none of the solutions that they put forward were about curbing their own behavior, re-engaging with people that they may have pissed off. None of that. Instead, they just did what you said. And I think vitriol is the right word. I'm not sure I sent you that response from this guy, but this is a Trump voter in Pennsylvania. One of those millennial Trump voters we cannot lose. We just can't lose these guys. They have to come out, and we have to turn them into midterm voters as older people get more Democratic, because you're looking at the second group of boomers that are going to start to be the older 65 plus in the electorate. And they're more liberal. They're not like Boomer 1. They're not like the silent gen. So we need these guys. And his comment was just unbelievable to me. It was not a hateful comment. And that's, if you have any criticism of the Israeli government or what they've done in Trump's administration or of Netanyahu, you're immediately an anti-Semite, you're this, you're that. This guy, was just lucid as can be, saying, look, this isn't on me. He said, I told you in the screener I'm going to vote. I don't think I'm going to, but the reason why I said I was going to is because I wanted to take the survey and I wanted to tell you this. And he basically outlined that this is their fault. This is Republicans' fault. This is Trump's fault. This isn't on me. And you're not going to convince me I'm a hater because I don't think a foreign nation should have been put before my own needs. I have needs. We have needs in this country with housing. We have needs in this country with, goods producing jobs that pay higher wages. All the things Trump ran on. What happened to that? You're not going to put this on me because all of that was garbage. He's like, we all forget the Republican Party was trash before Donald Trump. It was trash before America First. And it's not my fault they chose Israel over me. And I'm not sure if I sent you that, but I will, just so you can read this guy. We always print out the transcripts of the interviews we have with people. And it just hit me. That guy he is the personification of the attitude right now in the right.
Did you post that on your X account here?
I might have put something. I might have. I drop so much on there all the time, but I'll drop it right in with you right now. But it's absolutely bad. I'll be honest with you. I sent it to the administration. I did. And I'm like, this is where you're at right now. This is your problem. And they don't ever want to hear it. But this is a lower prop, but not a non-voter, just a lower prop voter, 41 years old, lives in Pennsylvania, lives in a swing county in Pennsylvania, of which there are only 3, if you count Trump's map. He's key. He's crucial. And he's not an anti-Semite, Owen. He's just, it's like everyone wants you to
But isn't that what they did to us when they called us racist? It's like that's what they did for 8 years. Calling us all racist, and now the right goes woke, and they call you an anti-Semite if they disagree with you. It's the exact same woke tactics. They've just switched it over to the right-wing section of debate now. But you bring this up, and I see this constantly. People will say, "Oh, Owen, your doomerism isn't helping. Hey, Owen, you need to support Republicans." All these different things, or hey, it's your fault if the Democrats win in the midterms. And I'm sitting here saying, well, wait a second. Hold on now. A year ago, you said you didn't want us. A year ago, you said you didn't need us. When we were all talking about the Epstein files, you said, F off, we don't want you.
Yeah.
And actually, that message is still being sent out today. Apparently, the new message is we're purifying by subtraction. The Republican Party is purifying by subtraction. Congratulations. You'll purify yourself into a loss. But what is ironic is they sit here and they blame people in the media as if I have more power than Trump.
Yeah.
Like, what even is that? Honestly, it's a cult mindset is what it is. They can't say anything negative about their dear leader. But it's like, I can't even, being that brainwashed is insane to think that there's any member of the media that has more influence than Trump. If you want to win the midterms, then you need to be looking at Trump. If you want to maintain the House and the Senate, you need to be talking to Trump. And so it's also, I think, a weird subconscious admission that they know Trump is blowing it. They know he's blowing it, but because of their brainwashing, they can't talk to him. They can't direct it at him. So instead, they spew that at us because they know that that's what's happening, but they just can't blame their dear leader, Trump. So they blame us. It has to be one of the funniest, most clown world things I've seen to think that there's any member of the media that can influence the midterms as much as Donald Trump.
No, man, I think you nailed it. I think there's two things. You have that group of people who still really do support Donald Trump. They want him to succeed. They don't want to admit that, they've made bad decisions. And instead of directing their anger or even their disappointment, because I think disappointment is the word that I would label on most people. They're not really angry. They're disappointed. And to the point of like, not anger, but he hurt these people, like posting, I don't want your support anymore. If you care about the Epstein files, I don't want your support anymore. Oh, in every poll we conduct, we have somebody reference that. That was a deep cut. It is exactly what Rush Limbaugh warned about when Rush told Donald Trump, it was one of his parting gifts before he died, that the media can't break your bond, the FBI can't break your bond. None of these external forces could break your bond with your voters. You can break your bond with your voters. And the only way you can do that is by being a typical politician and screwing them over or saying something like that. And that is what he did with that post, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. And you're describing that group who doesn't want to admit it. So instead they lash out at you. They lash out at me. Guys, I wish the People's Pundit had control with his polls over the outcome of an election. I could fix this country in a heartbeat. I would run somebody totally different have the polls say he's going to win. And according to you, I have the power to actually make it happen, right? So then I could just change this government in one election overnight myself. Think about what you're saying. It's ridiculous. And then you have the other group, which is the disingenuous group. The other people, I think, are just deluding themselves on, maybe not on purpose, but you're right. Like on some conscious level, they know it, but they just don't want to admit it. And then you have the disingenuous group, which is the Mark Levins and the Ben Shapiros, who were told that the Iran war would be it. You would destroy the coalition, and you're putting Israel first. This is how they got the name, guys. You're either going to put America first, because if you truly believe in America first, if you truly believe that Democrats are the existential threat and they're going to destroy the country, then you can't have anything come before the preservation of your coalition so you stay in power. You made the decision to put Israel before that, which means you put it before what was the best interest of this country. So they know that, so they need to deflect blame. And they started this proxy war late last year after Midnight Hammer against you, Tucker, others. And this is really a proxy for 2028, but they can't fight 2028, guys, if you blame them for what is about to happen in November. So one of the most predictable, easiest predictions the People's Pundit has ever made was fighting with Mark Levin and Christmas Eve. This nutcase was attacking me and saying, we'll revisit this, Mark, when you're too busy deflecting blame for your stupidity and what you've done to the party in November. And this is where we are already, because that's what they're doing. It's Megyn Kelly's fault. It's everybody's fault, but the group of people who started a stupid, unpopular, unwise war that the American public 70% didn't want. When their main issue was cost of living, brother, and they drove gas.
It still is.
It is. Yeah.
And it still is. I've got some other polling questions, but I want to just kind of continue with the momentum of this conversation, because not many people have these types of conversations, quite frankly. I listen to as much media as anybody, and I'm telling you, it just doesn't exist anywhere. So it's refreshing. The one thing that I've studied and I've learned about MAGA is specifically when I hear comments like, "Oh, you'll come running back to Trump." Okay, well, that's first of all a very cultish mindset that I completely can't relate to. But what I've learned is that most of these MAGA people are really new to politics. They either didn't start following until 2016, or really, I think for a lot of them now, it's really till about 2024 even. That election cycle was kind of their first taste of the political process. So as you know, you've been around forever. Really, the trick in political media is, in a way, it's kind of survival. It's like, can you survive multiple election cycles in a row? It's like, and once you've done like 3, 4, 5 election cycles, it's like, okay, you've got that staying power. For a lot of people, it's maybe 1, 2, 3 max, and then they just kind of fall off and you don't see them anymore for whatever reason. They get burnt out, they get frustrated, whatever it is, they get disenfranchised. Yeah. So I've learned that there's a very short-term mentality with MAGA. And there's this strange belief that this magical run is going to last forever. Like there's this weird assumption that, hey, this MAGA coalition that quite frankly won Trump 3 elections, right? I mean, 2016, 2020, 2024. There's this belief that this magical coalition is going to last forever. It's invincible. It's going to charge right through the midterms in 2026. And then in 2028, we'll, pick it up with Rubio or whoever they want. And it's just like, guys, this is a very immature mindset. This is a very toddler-like political mindset to not understand that really with each election cycle, the entire landscape changes. And actually, this most recent election cycle was the most hypersonic landscape change I've ever seen in the political media. So you're going to be in a world after the midterms when the new Congress gets sworn in. I think you're going to be in a world that a lot of these new MAGA people just can't even comprehend, Rich. I don't think they really understand exactly what they're in for. They weren't there in 2018. They weren't there in 2020. And so they don't really understand, I think, what's about to happen here.
Yeah, I think there's 2 problems with MAGA. As good as, and as solid as the coalition that was built is in the online and the political world, you have this group. I don't know, maybe it's the gamer term in me, but I call them noobs. They're new to this game. They're They think they're experts. They're like far away observers too, but they think because they
get to the White House and they get to Mar-a-Lago, so they got to be the experts.
I was just going to say, sadly, what has happened is that a lot of those noobs actually got in some, pretty significant positions and, had certain people's ears. Then the other darker part of that is that a lot of them just sold out, Owen. I mean, there is a real problem with foreign money in our system right now. I'm glad that some people are now starting to bring it up, but unfortunately,
wait, you're telling me? Hold on. You're telling me Laura Loomer didn't do a photo op with a drone in Ukraine for free?
Brother, let me tell the audience right now, guys, if you think people like Owen and I do this for the money, you're crazy. That's why there's so much temptation, because to be honest in this game doesn't pay. It doesn't. And I think a lot of people were new and fell prey to that. And even some who weren't and were just tired of not getting their own finally buckled and just did it. And I think we even saw members of the administration, frankly, fall into this. And that's a big problem. It wasn't an issue in Trump's first administration. But on some of the people who mean well, but are just like, stop dooming Rich, stop blackpilling Owen. They don't understand that, as Mark Penn used to say before he turned into what he turned into, you can say, provide rhetoric for cover all you want, but at the end of the day, reality always wins. The voters are going to hit you with reality anyway, whether you like it or not. And a lot of these people are new and they don't understand not only everything you said is true, that election cycles can change dramatically. The age buckets that we all talk about when we're looking at polls, there's this noob idea that somehow the 30 to 45 year olds are the same, that 30 to 45 year olds that were in 2024 and 2020, and they don't realize that people age, and as they do, their voting behavior changes, so those demographic buckets change, and they're all just relying on boomers in a midterm to show up to vote. It's ridiculous. But look at Iowa and Ohio. What they really don't understand is that those states, going back to the idea, well, it's not even an idea, it's a fact. The Republican Party was a party of losers before Donald Trump, with his very specific brand of republicanism, came around. We couldn't win Iowa, guys. They must have, some forgot, some weren't even around to remember. We couldn't win Ohio. We couldn't win Iowa. We couldn't even win Florida sometimes. It was ugly. Florida's gotten redder and redder, but it will.
Did George Bush win Florida? We won't revisit that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Mitt Romney lost it, Owen. He lost it.
Well, I'm just saying, did George Bush win Florida? I don't know.
I mean, the first time around, right? And then, there was Mitt Romney comes around by 2012 and is tying the Cuban vote with Barack Obama and loses it. It only became a much redder Republican vote with Donald Trump. So what happens if Trump is perceived by the greater voter electorate as being like every other Republican now, or what Republicanism used to be? And this is why people are looking at polls and they're just denying reality. We're in Senate polling right now. Guys, I hate to break this to you. Sherrod Brown is ahead of John Husted. It's bad. And you shouldn't be surprised, because Bernie Moreno only won it by a little over 3 points when Donald Trump won the state by 13.5, and he was on the ballot for Bernie. Sherrod Brown is an extremely strong candidate for that state. He was once an incumbent. And Husted is an extremely bad candidate because he's a very typical Republican. So you shouldn't be surprised that Ohio is not looking good. Iowa, not looking good. A statistical tie. And people are like, that's impossible, Rich. Trump won these states by this amount, X amount. Obama won Iowa by that amount too. It swings. Iowa has it is the single it has the most number of pivot counties, which are swing counties, in any state in the nation. There are 31 of them that voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and in 2012, and then voted for Trump in 2016, in 2020, and in 2024. And yet look at how they voted in 2018, Owen, when Trump wasn't on the ballot. That state swung hard to the left. Republicans got wiped. Ohio resisted a little bit more, but Ohio's actually shifting more to the left. It's because Vivek is a bad candidate and Sherrod Brown is an extremely good candidate for the Senate.
And now Vivek is going down the losing path of data centers and foreign policy. It's like, dude, I actually thought Vivek was a strong candidate. I thought Vivek had a lot of potential.
Me too.
But it's like when you go down these loser policies, you're just sabotaging your own campaign. I am curious. I didn't think about getting into election data with you. We can here because I love election data. I come from the sports media, so like crunching statistics is like it's like the funnest part of the thing for me. I have it right now. I think 52 is going to be the most seats any party wins. I still think it could go either way. I still think it could go Democrats or Republicans. I think there's 4 seats that I have up for grabs. It sounds like you think there might be 6 based off of what you're saying.
There are. So, we run all these simulations on the show. People like that stuff. Tune in. Just don't overlap Owen show or he'll get mad at me. But, we do it. Look, the number that people have to look for, there's 2 things on election night people should look for. Number 1, what is the House popular vote sitting at? If it's above 4, then it's almost impossible for Republicans to hold the House, even with the Jerry, which is not really Jerry. Democrats have been jerrying for years. So I'm glad to see this happen to them. But if they hit 6 or more, Owen, I think what Kyle Condon from the Crystal Ball tried to explain to people this week, it's not sinking in yet. The map between 18 and 26 really isn't that different as far as the median seat. So in the House anyway, on the House side, I'll get to the Senate, but on the House side, if it gets above R4 and then gets to R6, it's like the levee breaks, okay? And then the cradle falls and down comes Republican majority, babies and all, they'll be done. They'll be smoked and wiped off in the House. And 228 is where we're at now, but it could go higher than that.
Well, I've been surprised because there's these are radical left candidates, right? Al Sayed and there's another governor that's now polling ahead, a radical left female in Wisconsin. Yep. So I'm starting to look at these and I'm like,
and winning the general election.
But I was sitting there saying, you know what? The one thing, if the Republicans can lean on anything, it's that still most people maybe don't like socialists, right? I mean, it's like there's still enough of a hedge there where you can just bet that there are people that are just never going to vote for a socialist. And yet all these early indicators are that these far left radicals are about to do pretty well and maybe even have some shocking victories as some dark horses here. If that starts happening, because I'm not really anticipating that, I will say that's why I think 52 is the max. I mean, under the data that you're looking at, you could see maybe 54 for the Democrats. I mean, that would be their dream.
I can, and again, I mean, looking at the map, I can see it. I'm part of me wants to resist it just because, we'll see. But if Ohio goes,
that's the big one. I see. I still think Ohio goes red. If Ohio goes blue, I think it's cooked.
It's over, guys. It's an 80. It goes from being a roughly 50-50 to an 80% chance that the Democrats take the Senate, and they're going to take seats that you probably.
What are they doing? I'm sorry, Rich. It's just like, what are we doing here?
Committing political suicide.
The data center. Have you seen the new data center project in Ohio that they just?
I've read reports on it. I saw Vivek's remarks on it. And this is one of the most stressful things to me. I've been asked as a pollster how voters view data centers. Owen, I throw it out there like it's free candy. Stay away from this issue. People hate it. Even rural voters who you need 80% of in some of these counties can't stand it. I told Peter Navarro outside of the Oval Office, Peter, look at this. Stay away from it. And what do we get? Truth Post praising data centers. I mean, I don't know. Oh, and I get this question a lot. Like, what is going on? I don't know. I wish I did.
Well, and like,
look, I go back to the lobbies.
Let's just say it like it is. Let's just say it like it is. Okay, politics is corrupt. Yeah. So you'd think you'd be like, okay, guys, if there was a rational mind in there, it'd be like, hey, guys, we got to wait till after the midterms. It's like, hey, wait till Iran after the midterms. Wait till the data centers. Just wait till after the midterms. It's like, yeah, we'll pretend we're not going to do it. We're going to do it. Wait till after the midterms. Instead, there's a potential situation that this big data center project in Ohio, honestly, this thing is so big, people will think this is a crazy statement. Maybe you do too. I'd like to know your thoughts. This big data center project in Ohio could end up actually changing the entire election. It's going to be unavoidable that it's going to be a mainstream story in Ohio. This thing is going to be a big story in Ohio. And if the development continues on, it's going to hit right before the midterms. It's going to be the biggest story in Ohio right before the midterms. And you're going to have the Republican candidate saying data centers good. You're going to have the Democrat candidate saying no data centers. Well, gee, and then the top news story in Ohio is going to be data centers, the biggest one in Ohio. It's like you're just setting yourself up for a loss right there. And if that swings Ohio, that can swing the entire Senate. Honestly, one story in Ohio can swing the entire Senate.
One of the problems with the data center issue too, and God bless Ken Paxton for seeing this right away and not jumping on the data center wagon, but everyone knows data centers serve, and I don't want to use a left-wing word, but it is, if you listen to Sherrod Brown's messaging, if you listen to John Ossoff's messaging, by the way, George is not competitive. John Ossoff is going to steamroll Mike Collins. And I like Mike, but he's going to get steamrolled.
You got a bad outlook, man. I got to say, this outlook.
Just reality, brother. You know, I'm just in on reality.
Your reality is worse than mine. All right, go ahead.
It's because I'm looking at the polling. I mean, we got some Senate polls coming out, guys. Stay tuned. It's ugly. I basically want to go in the fetal position and cry into November. Like, I feel like I wasted a decade of my life.
It's still summer. There's still nice weather out there, Rich.
That's true, right? I got the pool too. You know, maybe I won't go in the fetal. I'll go in the tanning position.
There you
go.
That's
you know, I mean, what it comes down to is that if you listen to their messaging, they're arguing they're listening to this one guy too, who's really smart on the left. And they've come up with this Epstein class narrative, which, by the way, I tried to tell donors about, Republican donors, and they looked at me like I had three heads, and they're like, I don't even know what that means, the Epstein class. I'm like, well, guess what? The voters are about to tell you. They're about to show you. But they're using it against these guys. And it's just a blanket term for people who get away with literally murder and everything else, and the system's rigged for them, and Trump was supposed to destroy it, but instead he joined it. And basically their narrative is he joined it and, you know, he screwed you over. Like he left you hanging for them, for the billionaires and the oligarchs. So when you see these data centers, you know, ripping up your neighborhoods and tearing down your beautiful scenery that you can't stand, you're looking at it and you're saying, this makes my neighborhood look like crap, but so-and-so who's Trump's friend, you know, a fortune. John Husted's getting beaten over the head with the Epstein class narrative. Sherrod Brown's ads are good. And by the way, there's another scam out there that Republicans are raising more than Democrats. Democrats haven't been using the DNC or the DCCC for years now.
Yes, actually, hold on. Pause. Let's put a pause on this. Yes. I covered this yesterday, and No. But you're going farther than I did, because I was kind of like, my assumption was that the money was pouring in through the DSA, and the reason why the DNC and the DCCC were saying, hey, we don't have a large war fund. Can you bill us after the elections? I thought that's because all the money was maybe going through the DSA, and they just kind of wanted to pretend like, you know, they were playing possum here, like, oh, we don't have money, but the DSA has money. What do you say is going on?
I mean, that is part of it, but they use Act Blue and third-party groups to basically, and I mean, I don't really know how to say this. They can even hide foreign money like this, but they took Citizens United to a whole other level. I remember after 22, breaking down, it was a project we worked on, breaking down how somebody like Herschel Walker got outspent by Raphael Warnock by the amount he did, when the NRSC and Mitch McConnell's super PACs and all the rest of them were supposed to have so much more money than Democrats. And that's where it came from. And despite that, we have seen people like James O'Keefe and others do stories on Act Blue. And there's numbers out there, you know, 1.2 billion, a lot from overseas, by the way, which they can hide through other organizations and entities. And Republicans just continue on 2-3 cycles behind, thinking they're still playing chess. And Democrats are playing checkers. And it's a marvel, something to marvel at, because Democrats came out against Citizens United. They hated it, but they have learned how to use it in a way that is just it's unbelievable, because it masks to your opponents how much money you really have. Adding the DSA component to that is honestly brilliant. It really is. But Republicans will sit there for clickbait all day on X, like, look at how much Trump's got in his PAC. Look at how much the RNC has, and the DNC's got to sell their building. Nobody cares about the DNC anymore. It's just not how Democrats raise money. It's not how they disperse money. And it's definitely not, how they get money to the third-party groups that they use to get the vote out, which is really critical because that's what Warnock did. He put them into third-party groups that hired everyday people, single mothers who just wanted to put food on the table. So here you have Democrats, Biden and the Senate Democrats create an inflation problem. And then these third-party groups, swoop in and tell those single moms, we're actually the solution to your inflation problem. We'll give you $500 a week. You can make $500 extra a week to go and round up Democratic ballots. And I actually snuck on one of the Zoom calls, Owen, and it was hilarious. And this one woman was like, well, wait a minute. If we get it like piecework, this is kind of like piecework. Can I get my Republican neighbors too? And will I get paid for that? And they're like, no. It was hilarious.
You don't let them know.
But they Republicans are just totally clueless, or at least most Republicans. The leadership knows this. Mike Johnson knows this. He knows it. Speaker
Well, and
Johnson
you know what else?
They know.
You know what else I see too is the Democrats it's obviously nowhere near where Trump was in 2016. I mean, the social media blitz for Trump, which was mostly free, honestly. I never got any money from the Trump campaign, and I was, one of the number one people on social media supporting him. So they kind of were able to tap into that, which didn't really cost them much. The Democrats to nowhere near the level of 2016, but the Democrats are kind of getting that. They kind of have that edge on the organic social media activity, whereas you can see on the Trump side or on the Republican side, it's all forced. It's all forced. It's all paid for. It's not even polished. It's very just raw political propaganda. It's not really hitting. The Democrats are kind of getting the social media buzz organically now, and I don't know how much of a difference that will end up making, but I do think that kind of plays into a picture here is that the Republicans are going to end up spending a bunch of money on TV ads because they need to get the boomers out, whereas the Democrats, they're going to have to spend a lot less because they're getting free social media content. This is how the money is going to be spent. I think the Democrats have to spend less to win more, I think is kind of the situation they're in.
No, I think that's right. I agree with that. And shameless plug of the book, by the way. This is the entire point of why I wrote Burn It Down, which is going to be out, next month or September 21st. I wish I wrote it earlier so we could have had this discussion earlier, but that won't work for very much longer because, again, those boomers are going to get more Democratic, which will save Democrats money, even more money, because we're not having a young voter problem. We're having a young right-wing voter problem. So if you look at the primary turnout data, you look at the special election data, the off-cycle data, you'll see that it's not really that young, low-propensity voters aren't showing across the board. It's that the rights are sitting out. So in Texas, Democrats actually did really well getting them out. In New Jersey, they did very well getting them out. And by the way, for people who think, El Said can't win in Michigan, in 2025,
I'm going to bet on him now. I think he's going to win. I'm
stunned.
I agree now. I would have said no. Honestly, I would have said no probably up till last night's debate. Mm-hmm. I mean, folks, this is organic buzz.
It's because he's talking about the issues people care about. That's what helps with that.
Yeah. And, and there's this game that people on the right like to play too, which is, they don't mean it. It doesn't matter. Nobody means it. The Republicans don't.
You.
Yeah. It's like that one isn't really sinking. They're saying the right things. You're saying all the wrong things. All right. I've got another guest coming up. I want to just get a couple other poll things out here, get your take before we let you go. I'm shocked at this. I'm sure you've been seeing the same Fox News segments that I've been seeing.
Yeah.
They're telling you, hey, you need to pay $4 a gallon for gas to stop Iran from having a nuke. This is their selling point. And it shows how detached from reality they are, that they don't understand. Hey, look, for a lot of Americans, $4 a gallon that's tough. I mean, that's tough for a lot of Americans right now. That is tough. They have to think about that. And you can see the complete detachment from this reality from DC. But you've seen the same segments. I'm shocked. Rich, the polls indicate Americans don't like paying $4 a gallon.
They have no interest in paying $4 a gallon. First of all, we also gave people this month, we gave people the option of not just, various price breaks. So we told them in the prompt that on February 26th, the average was below. It was just $2.98, just below. So roughly $3. On February 27th, it jumped and it was a little over $3. So the question basically was, how much would you be willing to pay for gas as a result of continuing to fight the Iran war? 4 in 10 say fighting the Iran war is not worth paying anything extra per gallon. Another 30% say, yeah. Oh, here's the entire question of whether or not you want to pay. You want to fight the war. But right, I mean, the bottom line is a super majority in this country doesn't think that it's worth paying $4 per gallon for gas. And we'll see when the poll comes out, and that we actually break it down by, well, how much would you be willing to pay? And it goes all the way down to pre-war levels. So what 80% of the country is telling you folks is that, the Mark Thiessens who go on Fox and say, you know what, we should be able to deal with $4 per gallon. That's more out of touch than I think I've ever seen the Democratic Party, even in the Trump era. Yeah. I'm serious. It's that out of touch. It's way.
I've never heard it put that way, but that's stinging.
12 years. 12 years of polling on one. I've never seen somebody so out of touch.
And by the way, I see this right here. They've got, Trump in the picture. Where were you when it was this expensive in Biden? Rich, this should be their wake up call, because this is what I get a lot. I get a lot of this too. They say, hey, Obama got into the Middle East. He said no more forever wars. Biden said no more forever wars. He got into the Middle East. And so I'm saying, so you're admitting Trump is like Obama and Biden now. Okay. So you're with me. And they're doing the same thing with these gas prices. Like, hey, gas was over $4 a gallon under Biden too. It's like, yeah, that's the problem. What is going on?
I don't understand. A year I've been telling these people to. And if they follow me and they see me tweet that, but you didn't see me all last year tell you that this argument's not going to work. And here's why it's not going to work. Again, you killed your authenticity when you decided to put the need of a foreign nation ahead of the needs of your own voters. And I don't mean to keep going back to that, but it goes towards your authenticity.
Don't fall for that trap. That is everything. Right? I hear that all the time when I'm doing political discussions online. They say, oh, you just talk about foreign policy and wars. It's like, yeah, that's everything right now. Like, don't you get it? That's why you're not getting anything.
And that's what noobs didn't understand. Those noobs we were talking about before, that's what they never understood. And God bless them. This is what Charlie, tried to help me, before Operation Midnight Hammer. If you're around and you've been around a while, you know that a president, a new majority, has a certain period to get their agenda done. That Congress does nothing in year 2, especially a Republican Congress, because they're really a bunch of pansies. At least Democrats go and push the brink as long as they can before the public stops them. Republicans have a very short period. It's not even a honeymoon. We call it peak presidency. You have a small window to get your domestic agenda to make sure that you fulfill the transaction that you made with the voter in the election prior that got you into power. And instead of doing that, they were derailed by this war. Even Operation Midnight Hammer, limited strikes. If you weren't a noob, then you knew that if they did those limited strikes, it was always going to lead to a full-blown kinetic war. And 2, it was always going to derail the domestic agenda, because DC cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. You either get what you wanted, or the blob gets what they wanted. It has never worked any other way. And I'm sorry for noobs who came into this business and came into this world and didn't know any better and just thought that everybody could get everything they want. Not in Washington, D.C. You sacrificed the needs of the American public, which they made loud and clear they did not want you doing. You chose to do that. So that is on you. That is not on the 30%, 35% of Republicans who don't want to show up in November. That is on you. You did that.
Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, has been our guest for a great second hour of the Owen Report today. Rich, great talk. Let's do it again soon.
Anytime, Owen. Thanks for having me on. All the best, brother.
Appreciate it. Let us know when that book is out too, all right?
Will do.
All right. All right, there goes Rich. All right, guys, we've got Steve Baker coming up next with some big breaking news on a story that's kind of been developing for a while with Corey Mills. That's my words, not Steve's. We'll see what he thinks in a minute. I feel like there are people in the right-wing media that don't want to cover this because it looks bad on Republicans, especially ahead of a midterm election. So we'll get Steve's latest on that. And then I've got to ask him about the latest on the pipe bomber situation because it looks like Steve Baker was right from the beginning. We take a short break. We'll be right back with Steve Baker on the other side.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
It's the fastest 3 hours on the internet. It's the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
Yes, and we are now in the final hour of today's transmission. Loaded show, and we got our next guest coming up. Haven't even really gotten to the news today. We've been ranting and raving and talking to our guests. We got another great guest coming up now, Steve Baker, joining us now. And, Steve, I want to get into the January 6th pipe bomber, obviously. Mm-hmm. This is a story that a lot of people are kind of, I think, hoping just goes away.
Yeah.
You've been proven right time and time again on this story, so I want to get the latest from you. But also, the situation with Corey Mills, and maybe we should start there, Steve, the situation with Corey Mills, because to give it a little context for people listening, I was speaking to some of your colleagues at The Blaze a couple years ago when they really started to dig in on this story. And they were asking me, they were like, well, do you have any interest in this? And I was a little confused by the question. And then I started to understand. I was like, oh, people in right-wing media don't want to touch this story. They don't want to touch this story because it's a Republican. They don't want to touch this story because it's in Florida. And so there's kind of this hands-off thing. And it's like, okay, fine. If you want to avoid, scandals or corruption in your own party, that's your prerogative. But it's been effective. It's been effective to ignore this story. And so I know you've got the latest when it comes to the Corey Mills situation. Steve Baker, what is the latest?
Owen, thanks for having me. Well, the first thing you need to ask yourself, you asked the question about why the right-wing media didn't want to touch this story, but why up until at least recently, the left-wing media has not wanted to touch this story either, because we're talking about a scandal-ridden someone that I believe easily could be the most corrupt congressman on the Hill. You're talking about a guy with multiple, we'll just call them sex-related issues, multiple, I'm looking for the right word here, financial/corporate fraud issues. We're talking about a guy with campaign fraud investigation open from Congress right now, has been for over a year. And then we also have the issues of stolen valor, which really is where all of the curiosity began with Corey Mills to begin with. And so this guy has layers and layers of questions and corruption, and he would seem to be the first guy that if you wanted to target somebody, if you were mainstream press, left-leaning, liberal, characterize them however you want, and you want to take down and you want to make an example of a sitting GOP member of Congress, he's vulnerable. I mean, he has no force field up whatsoever at this point. And so he's prime target, and yet they have not gone after him until just the last couple of weeks.
Now, what is it with the campaign finance or the financial issues? As far as, let's say, the romance issues, some of it is well documented. Some of it is still rumor, gossip. But what do we know about the financial issues?
This has been an open investigation from Congress from at least going back for over a year. I was brought into the Corey Mills investigation from the Blaze when I was still there. Back, it was probably in May of last year, so over a year ago. And the fact that Congress was already looking into him for campaign finance violations was already an open investigation from the Hill. Now, I had no interest in that side of his story whatsoever, and in fact, I was not brought into that. So, in terms of the details of that particular aspect of his vulnerability, I'm not the one to speak to that directly. I was brought in originally because as they began to peel back the layers on this, and this was like 3 or 4 of our other reporters at the Blaze were looking into other aspects of his background, particularly the stolen valor and, as you said, the romance related issues. Then they ran into some interesting aspects of his story related to FBI and CIA ties. That's kind of, my beat, as they say. And so they brought me in at that point, and that's when things really began to develop for us.
Yeah, and I'm looking at, it's actually amazing how they're able to slip a lot of this under the radar. Not too many news stories here. I'm kind of wading through the internet here looking for them, but a press release in May, statement of the chairman and ranking member of the Committee on Ethics regarding Representative Corey Mills. They've done a pretty good job keeping this thing silent. Even the left-wing media, I pulled up ABC, I pulled up MS Now, that's virtually it.
Yeah.
And so to me, that says two things. This is just what experience has taught me. Whatever Corey Mills was involved in, there's probably some Democrats involved in it as well. And so you kind of keep it hush-hush. And then as far as the right-wing media is concerned, as we discussed at the opening of this segment, it was like when your former colleagues at the Blaze, were kind of feeling this out, and they were like, hey, do you have interest? It's like, wow, you guys really have to ask conservatives if they want to cover right-wing corruption. You really have to.
Right. No, it's true. But the primary reason that nobody on the left wanted to touch this thing going back 15, 16 months ago as it was developing was that Mills has a very particular tie-in because of his foreign weapons trading corporation business that he's been involved with for many years, in that, you don't get to sell arms overseas. You don't get to sell bullets to our own enemies, ISIS, for instance, in Syria, without the permission of CIA. And without the protection and the coverage of CIA. And we know how CIA controls the narrative at the mainstream media. So he was getting by with a lot at the time. And then you had the problem on the right which was very much more apparent because, first of all, there was the issue of how thin the majority is, or is the issue of how thin the majority is for the Republicans in Congress right now. And they could not afford to have his, Corey Mills' background and his particular problems being highlighted at this time. Now, as we enter this, the end of this campaign season, we're in the home stretch here, 3 months out, and I'm not exactly sure when the primary is in Florida, but they probably are seeing it's time to take the gloves off, because there is a real vulnerability in that district now with some district realignment and that sort of thing. That district is not quite as purple as it used to be. It's a little more dark purple, but it's not completely invulnerable to a Democrat attack, particularly if he wins the primary and he brings all of those scandals into it. They are going to be laid bare at that point.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a date here. I think it's August. I'm getting some different dates, but it is coming up here, August 18th. It looks like August 18th. So, yeah, obviously the Republicans know they have a thin majority, and so they don't want to potentially lose Corey Mills. Is it enough, though? Is it enough of a scandal that the people in Florida are going to think about that before voting? I'm not so sure.
Well, we are seeing that his campaign funding is drying up. He is now falling behind against his primary opponents who don't have anywhere near the name notoriety that he has. And, he's a short time congressman anyway. He's only been there for 3.5 years. He's only in his second term. So he's not, a longtime stalwart down there. He's not somebody who could not be easily replaced. And I think that the Republicans need to go ahead and get him out of the race if they have any chance of winning this, because certainly the left are going to throw all of the scandals into the, full bore. All the money's going to go into revealing the particular problems that he's had. Now, one other issue, and I've just got to throw it out there, that one reason he's maybe had more protection even under the Trump administration than you would anticipate somebody with as scandal-ridden as he is the fact that he is very, very close friends with Kash Patel and has been for many years, predating Kash being in Congress and predating Corey Mills being in Congress himself.
Well, and I could see a situation where, say he wins the primary, you get close to the midterms, and that's when the Democrats are going to open the floodgates. So it could be a little strategic right now for them to remain silent on the Mills situation, and then they figure, okay, 2 weeks till the midterms, we're going to do a $2 million ad buy, and we're going to bury this guy. And by then it'll be too late for the Republicans to replace him.
But you know what? The mainstream media started, I read a bunch of bylines from a bunch of people I know on the mainstream side just in the last couple of weeks have come out. In fact, I've probably spent about 45 minutes to an hour being interviewed by a CBS journalist on this very issue. I've been talking to another NBC journalist on this issue who says that he also would like to speak with me about this. So there is interest there. I don't know, why they're holding back, but there's so much more to the Corey story than has even come close to being revealed. Now, look, we did everything we did. I don't know, a dozen articles at the Blaze on this story. And then, of course, everything went to hell in a handbasket back in November because of my, pipe bomb story. And so I haven't personally been back on it since then. But we did a lot of work. We did a lot of work showing, I was in the courtroom when the young lady that had petitioned for the court to put a protective order on Mills because he had threatened revenge porn against her, and that's a felony, and that's a federal crime now. Ironically, it's a federal crime that Corey Mills voted for just in this last session of Congress, and so I was sitting in the courtroom during that. We witnessed what he did in February of last year in terms of a domestic violence issue. We covered that. We covered his the fact he couldn't make payments on his $21,000 a month DC penthouse. and that he had gotten some, $89,000 late on that. We covered much of his overseas problems, including his apparently he's a closet Muslim. Now from one day to the next, he may be a Catholic. He may be a Catholic one day, he may be an evangelical the next, but then he also speaks fluent Arabic, and he married an Iraqi woman, and they had a Muslim ceremony, which the particular mufti who married them was one of the unindicted co-conspirators in the first World Trade Center bombing, who in fact would not ever marry somebody under any circumstances into an Islamic family unless that person was a convert.
Well, and it's like, that's another reason I scratch my head. We know the foreign policy hawks, they catch a scent of a Muslim on you as a conservative. They're all screaming and shouting like it's, it's, what is that movie? I forget, where they point and scream. So the fact that they're not calling out Corey Mills for the Islam angle, again, just tells me there's some motive to keep this thing under wraps, whether it's just strictly because of a House vote or something else. Now, it's curious. You mentioned all the things. We are going to get into the pipe bomber next. You mentioned all the things that are on record about Corey Mills. The rest of it is kind of, rumor, gossip about what's going on at that penthouse. But I will say, you know how DC works. It only takes one or two people to snoop around in DC and find somebody with dirt that's willing to talk. And I'm curious if that's not an inevitability with Corey Mills here in the coming months.
Well, the problem that he has is the potential that more of these women will come out. I will tell you that more of these women have spoken to reporters. They have spoken not only to Blaze reporters, but also to MSM reporters. It has been up to this point on background or off the record, and so it has not been used. But we've also seen, we've seen some screenshots of communications between these women and Mills that, should they be made public, are pretty damning.
Where are we going to go party in DC now? I mean, that was the ultimate house, man. Come on.
Apparently.
Don't take that from us. All right, let's get into the January 6th pipe bomber. You know what, Steve, I'll let you take this where you want to go. I know it's hard for people to understand when you're going against the grain on a news story, and it seems like all the forces are against you, and you stick to your guns and you take it all the way. You end up being proven right. I mean, that's how I look at this, that you were proven right. The more nothing we get from this Cole investigation, the more it looks like it wasn't him. More recently, we've seen stuff which you might think, okay, that's not good enough. And yet there's so much photo evidence that the guy never wore a watch, not even once ever wore a watch. And the person that laid the pipe bomb did, the gate, everything else. Where are you at from where this began and where you're at today and everything you've gone through with your January 6th pipe bomber investigation?
Well, I started looking at the pipe bomb situation, 4+ years ago. And we went through a period where all of the revelations were coming out, had nothing to do with the individual who planted the devices. It was the reaction of law enforcement to the planting of the devices, and how none of that made any sense whatsoever. And to be honest with you,
are you talking about the nonchalant approach when they see it?
Oh, absolutely. And much more related, law enforcement related than just that. But yeah, you cannot justify these federal agents. We're talking about Secret Service, Capitol Police, FBI, et cetera, who, when notified that there were potential destructive weapons of mass destruction planted within 10 feet of them, that they decided it was okay to finish their sandwich for 2.5 minutes. And then once they got out of their SUVs, they took no action whatsoever in order to cordon off the area and establish a safe perimeter, as is their training.
People walking back and forth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All of these curiosities led me to start studying why certain camera angles were not were turned away, why certain cameras were turned away from the investigative scene after the devices were found. All kinds of very curious things were taking place. And so then you fast forward, and I wasn't even looking for, I never dreamed, Owen, that I would even spend a minute trying to investigate who the hoodied, shadowy bomber was that traversed the DC and around the RNC and the DNC that night. It's something I never intended to look at. Now, I'd seen those videos hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And then because of our access to the January 6th Capitol CCTV treasure trove, I've seen more video than the public has been allowed to see or given and released by the FBI. So I've seen a lot more of it. And then also working with the congressional committees over the last few years, I've been brought into a lot more discussions about that. I just never dreamed I would be looking for the person. And it was because I just pulled the wrong thread or the right thread, and this thing and this name dropped in my lap, and I started studying that. And that's what got me curious. And then we dove in, and I brought my entire team from the Blaze, myself, my partner, Joe Hanneman, and other outside resources that we have that help us in this investigative process. And then it became very apparent that we might have an actual real suspect. And then when we ran forensic analysis on this particular former Capitol Police officer, current CIA employee, and we got a very, very high rated positive hit on this individual, I took it to one of our federal agencies and reported it because I thought we might have an actual, this is called public corruption. And I thought we might have a public corruption issue. And from there, all hell broke loose.
Well, and really the thing was weird from day one. And in the midst of the stolen election, all the other drama around January 6th, the disaster of the Biden administration, the pipe bomber, let's say oddities, anomalies kind of just fell into the mix. They kind of just got lost in the rest of it until you started doing the investigation. But this brings us to where I think the real curiosity is, at least in my mind now, which is, why is it that Bongino and Patel are trying to sell that Cole was the bomber, point blank, it's over, stop asking questions? What do you make of that? I mean, obviously you're not sold. So why is it that Bongino and Patel want to sell this to everybody?
It's a great curiosity, isn't it? And your previous guest, as I was logging in to your network, he used the word the blob. And of course, I've attached myself to that word, and Mike Benz has popularized it. And one of the things that you learn when you are spending time building sources within the blob and investigating the blob is that the blob is going to protect the blob no matter what. And then in fact, when you first join the blob as an agent, or whether you're joining the FBI or whether you're joining the CIA, the first thing that the blob tells you in the academy is your first rule is that you never, ever embarrass the blob. And yet what we have learned from this, I don't know if you saw it, it just came out yesterday, the new CIA whistleblower, Jim Erdman, was on Tucker's latest show yesterday. And he said in that show, this is clearly a Capitol Police, CIA, FBI blob conspiracy. And all of the evidence leads to that, and circumstantial and otherwise. And so it has to be taken seriously. But the answer to your question is, why would Patel come over as a guy that's supposed to be cleaning house and supposed to be rooting out the deep state, the blob elements of his bureau? Why would he stand behind the Brian Cole arrest? Why would Dan Bongino not only stand behind the Brian Cole arrest, but then also tell Congressman Massey that he would personally write the check to fund the defamation lawsuit against me? And he said that while he was the deputy director of the FBI, as though that's his job there. And so,
by the way, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say, except maybe outside of Donald Trump himself with his personal lawsuits, the administration has gone after you harder than any, left-wing journalists.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Well, this administration and the previous administration, but the bottom line is
Don't say anything bad about Cash's girlfriend. Don't you dare. Don't bring that on me, Ricky Bobby.
I just refer to her as the girl who is Cash's friend. So that's it. That's all you're getting out of me. But the bottom line though is that for whatever reason, now let's just assume for a moment and give Cash some grace and let him let's say that the deep state elements that have not been rooted out of the Bureau yet have brought him false evidence or convoluted evidence that may be not tied directly to Brian Cole Jr., or maybe Brian Cole Jr. was fascinated with building rockets as a teenager and made a lot of purchases of the types of things that could also be used to make
over the course of what it was, 5
5
years. It was like 5 years. They had to go back and look at like something he purchased at Home Depot.
But not only going back to 2018, where they started compiling these purchase records, but also several of the items that were absolutely essential to build the device were purchased after January 6th.
Yeah.
And so,
well, golly, that just seems impossible. That math ain't mathin', as they say.
Well, Brian Cole is clearly a time traveler. That's his particular autistic superpowers. He's a time traveler, and apparently he has figured out also a way to be in 2 different places at the same time as well, because we have captured his automobile in the area. So they do have cell phone tower pings that have captured his cell phone, and we have found on Capitol CCTV his automobile a mile away from where the hoodied bomber is on foot at exactly the same moment. So there is that. And that's a real problem for the defense. And they're going to have a real tough time explaining how that car is over here and the bomber's over here.
Yeah, I mean, now you're getting into the realm of you're going to have to start claiming he's a patsy and he was set up. And I doubt there's too many people in the court system that are open-minded enough to consider that. I don't know, though. I don't know. Maybe there are. You know, what is so strange about it, to get to the Bongino angle, I mean, I don't even want to get into the Bongino personality stuff, but, you know, Bongino kind of leaves the Trump administration with his tail between his legs. There was really never an explanation as to why. I think that maybe it was for a personal reason, or the other conclusion I reach is that maybe he just got in there and realized I can't get anything done. There's nothing I can get done in here, and I might as well go back to my radio show with whatever reputation I have left, because ain't nothing happening with this administration. Now, as far as his show is concerned, I'm not sure if it has any relevance left. I don't know if he still gets viewers. I never hear anything about him. But Steve, that was his big victory lap. When he went back to his show, you know, his big victory lap, his big rub your nose in it was, hey, I got the January 6th pipe bomber. And, you know, that's not really selling. A lot of people don't believe that that's the case.
Well, he hasn't taken a huge victory lap. Now, he obviously mentioned in the night of their press conference, the famous press conference, that himself, Patel, who else was there? Janine Pirro and
everyone showed
Bondi.
face.
Right,
Yeah,
Bondi.
yeah.
They all got their little speech in, and Bongino said that he was confident that they got their man, and he made some comment about that later on. And I think I could be wrong because I don't watch his show, but from what I've heard is that he's only brought up the pipe bomber one time since he's been back. And that's a curiosity in and of itself, is that he's not defending that birthday gift that he got, you know, that the day of the arrest and the press conference was on Dan's birthday. But the most curious aspect of this, Owen, is the fact that nobody at the White House, including the president himself, has ever congratulated Dan and Cash publicly giving them a pat on the ass and a attaboy, guys, because you just accomplished one of my top 3 priorities. One of the administration's top 3 stated priorities was that they were going to solve the January 6th pipe bomber case. They did it, allegedly, and Trump has never mentioned it one time.
Well, and you know what? I think that ties in to kind of the larger January 6th story, which, I get it. We have to prioritize. I was directly involved in that. Obviously, I got sent to prison. So I have an interest in January 6th truth. But even I have kind of just said, whatever, it's not a priority right now. But I think it's important to remember the framing for people that might not, because a lot of people are just kind of getting interested in politics. They might be listening to the show today. They weren't paying attention in 2020, 2021, or on January 6th. People tend to forget the whole interpretation of what led to that day. There were a lot of different factors. I think we're more accepting that there were multiple factors at play, and maybe some people at fault that were there for good reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But the entire angle, and this was Dan Bongino's angle, by the way, this was Dan Bongino's top-rated podcast at the time. His angle was it was essentially an inside job. It was a Fedsurrection. They framed Trump supporters. They framed Trump. They had assets on the ground and all of this stuff. And so the pipe bomber was like, it was kind of believed that was a big loose thread in the entire Fedsurrection. And it was like, pull that thread, find out who it was, and then you can find your inside job. So when they deliver this guy, which to me, they've still not really connected to any political movement. It's like, what motivates him to go out there and do this? What interest or involvement did he have in a stolen election? Or, they can't really prove any of that. And so now the whole thing just kind of goes away. So they've never even really attempted to offer the American people that got set up that day an explanation. And this came out in my court case, by the way. I'm sure that you covered many of these instances too. The lawyers in the defense, my case went differently. The people that actually went and defended themselves, they would ask prosecution to present the number of feds that were on the ground that day. And they kind of would have to go back and forth, right? They'd have, do you mean a uniform? Do you mean informants, right? They got all these different semantics that they played. And so they went back and forth for months. And then eventually the prosecution came and they said, there were so many federal agents on the ground that day, we can't even give you a number. Now, interpret that how you want. Does that what? You can't count to 5? You can't count to 500? You don't want to admit it was 1,000? So you can interpret that. That's on the court record. Yeah. And so it's like they just want us to kind of forget that, hey, there were other shenanigans going on that day. There were shenanigans from left-wing rioters. There were shenanigans from some aspect of a deep state trying to sabotage that day. And then you get no answers. You get over 1,000 political imprisonments, indictments, and then they just give you some kid with autism that seems to have no connection to the event or politics at all, and they just want to shut the case.
Yeah. And going back to something we were speaking about earlier with Corey Mills, where's the curiosity of the left-wing media and the black civil rights organizations about this autistic young black man being held in pretrial detention, who his own neighbors say he has they have no fear of him whatsoever. The government itself, the prosecutors have said that they don't even consider him a flight risk, and nobody will touch this. BLM will not touch this.
We need to get Ben Crump on the case. I'm going to give Ben a call. Send him an email.
Well, you know what? He's been contacted. I can tell you that.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Here we go.
Absolutely. And nobody will touch it. As a matter of fact,
not even Crump?
The biggest influencers in the black podcast world today, all the way up to Charlemagne the God, they have all expressed interest in this, and then within 2 to 3 days afterwards go, nope, we're not touching it.
I'd love to why. Well, I mean, I'd love to be the conspiracy theorist here. I don't know, Steve. I think people have just lost interest. I think more than anything, they don't prioritize it. They've lost interest. The Democrats were so obsessed with this thing for 2 years that people just got sick of it. They tried to run campaigns on it. I think people just got sick of it. I mean, I guess throw myself into that. I don't really talk about it much anymore. This is the first time I've talked about it in a long time. But no, the story to me is whatever really happened that day, we're obviously never going to know. And there seems to be no interest in finding out from the administration for whatever reason. So I guess you kind of just chalk it up. Is that what you kind of doing here as you're summarizing this story? You're just chalking up all these different anomalies that just don't add up to you?
Well, that's what we have to do is look, when I'm compiling all of the evidence that we put together, all the data, the real live on the ground gumshoe, investigative work that has been done, and then you add it to all the circumstantial data. I can tell you this without any, I will go to my grave with this without any inhibition whatsoever. I can tell you 100% positive Brian Cole Jr. is not the individual who walked around the RNC and DNC on the night of January 5th and placed those two devices. He cannot physically, mentally, or otherwise be the person for a long laundry list of items. Additionally, it wasn't until we brought somebody to the government, not in a public, we went to the government first, behind the scenes, before we ever published a story. We took who we found as a possible match, somebody that, according to a software algorithm, matched at 94%, and then a person who, through human intelligence, matched at 98%. And it wasn't until the government then ran out and arrested the guy who can't be the bomber.
Well, and just so people understand, we have to be very selective the way we report this right now. We have to be very selective of the words we use and we don't use. I understand exactly what's happening here, Steve. What's so crazy, though, is, quite frankly, from a neutral observer, the case that you have put together for your suspect is stronger than any case that the feds have put together on Brian Cole.
I would agree with that. I think that we put together more exculpatory evidence on Brian Cole than we've done, even on the other side for the person who we actually pointed out as the possible person who delivered those devices that night. Look, I just to name two. I already named one. The first one is he can't be in two places at the same time. He cannot be in the car over here and be on foot over here a mile away at exactly the same moment. He cannot be. Additionally, you cannot take his size 12 foot and put it in that size 9 shoe that was traversing the alleyway behind the RNC that night. It's not possible. Cannot do it. Third, and I'll use this as a final example. He cannot be the person, Brian Cole Jr., unless you're going to convince me that he somehow was in cahoots with the Capitol Police itself. Brian Cole Jr. could not know where the blind spots in the cameras were that night so that he knew where to park, where to disappear, where to reload his backpack with the second device, because even the FBI says that he did not carry them both at the same time, or that the bomber didn't. And that they went to a hidden spot off camera at Folger Park to reload the backpack with the second device. Nor can Brian Cole find from Google Maps the hidden gate that he disappeared, or allegedly disappeared, into a church garden way and then poof, gone into the night. Brian Cole Jr. could not get that information about Capitol CCTV, blind spots, and an actual hidden gate. The FBI themselves admit that it's a gate. Unless you're a resident, you don't know it's there.
Well, I wonder, so did they land on this guy because of prior administration evidence, or is this a conclusion that they reached entirely on their own?
No, actually, in that press conference, they said that they did not even have to open a new investigation. They went back and they put new eyes on old evidence, meaning that this guy had already been a suspect 5 years prior had already been cleared because all of the, dots did not connect at the time. And so they went back and they started trying to, square peg a round hole situation. And they started connecting dots that don't connect. And that's because, again, they had to divert attention away from something that could implicate the blob in the first provable multi-agency conspiracy, maybe in the history of the country.
All right. What is the family's attitude towards this right now? Do they feel that their son is getting railroaded? Do they feel that there's a legitimate investigation here and justice is being served? Do you know what the family is currently going through as Brian is still in jail?
Absolutely. Obviously, because of the work I've done, the family has reached out to me, and I've spent a lot of time with them. I've spent time in Brian's house. I've spent an hour in his bedroom. I've looked through everything in that room that the FBI left, in a disheveled manner. They've kept the room just as the FBI left it after his bedroom was ransacked. I've spent time.
I know what that looks like.
Yeah. I've spent time with the mother, the grandmother, and so I know exactly how they feel. I don't want to speak for them, but I will confirm at least what they are already saying online. They absolutely believe that their son is innocent. They know that he's not capable of doing what he's been accused of doing. They do, in fact, believe that he is a patsy for the purpose of covering something else up, or covering for somebody else. And they're very confident that they have the right legal team to see this thing through. And to be honest with you, Owen, I don't think that this case can be won even in front of a DC jury.
Well, that's going to be a major embarrassment, I will say, if they can't get this conviction. And I guess you got to be concerned. I mean, let's just say it. You got to be concerned about Brian's safety and well-being.
Well, that is a concern. I will say also that the family is relatively assured that he is being looked after and watched after.
I mean, he's probably in solitary confinement.
He's not, actually. He's in the general population. He even has a roommate, but he has garnered the sympathy, of some of his watchers, we'll say, that also, look, there's only this many people in the federal government that believe that he is the bomber. Nobody else believes it. Nobody in the White House believes this. Nobody, our own sources. Look, our own sources inside the FBI say, no way, he's not the bomber. In fact, the whistleblower, the new FBI whistleblower that came forward after Brian Cole's arrest and said, I can't stand by this. He came forward, filed his protective disclosure. And what he told me to my own face, because I have interviewed the unnamed whistleblower, is he said that after that arrest, or after my article about to the other person, that the FBI, and this is a quote, he said they went to their Patsy file. Now, that doesn't mean that there's a literal file that says Patsy on it, but they went to their Patsy file, figuratively, and they needed to find somebody that they could divert attention away from the person that I named and put this on. Additionally, he said to me, and I quote, he said, nobody in my shop is buying this arrest.
And I guess, the logical question is, why didn't the Biden administration pursue this individual, especially considering the Biden administration, they were the ones that really wanted to put a bow on the January 6th investigation and bring it forward as many names to blame as possible. And so we always assumed they didn't go after the pipe bomber because it was one of their own. It was one of their own that ran the thing. And so now you look at it and you're saying, well, if they ever thought that was the guy, they probably would have moved forward with it. I mean, for God's sake, Steve, they were identifying people with earrings. They were identifying people with their key fobs. I mean, if they thought that was the guy, they probably would have delivered him. So they obviously didn't think it was him either. And I guess your analysis probably has the highest odds. They just said, all right, pull anybody from the suspects, whatever we can give that has the best case for the people to consume, and throw them out there. So that kind of looks like where it's at. All right, Steve, two big stories that you've been covering. Before we let you go, any other big news that Steve Baker is covering right now? Any other stories you want to get across to the audience here?
No, just stay tuned because there's going to be more coming out on that very pipe bomb case. We've got more revelations coming. In addition to that, obviously, I am being sued, so there is a defamation lawsuit against myself and my partner and my former employer, Blaze Media, related to this case. And we're kind of chomping at the bit at it because, as they say, discovery's a bitch.
Oh, it's expensive as well and time consuming. So I don't. Well, I was going to say I wouldn't wish it on my biggest enemies, and yet somehow our biggest enemies end up not just wishing it on us, but actually doing it to us. So I totally get that. Well, great work, Steve. You're one of the few out there in the media that continues to tell the truth despite the cost. And for that, we salute you.
Thank you, Owen.
All right, there goes Steve Baker. Thank you, Steve, for your time today. Give him a follow on X, guys. Follow his great work. And as I say a lot, I get it. You feel like there's less and less people out there that you can trust when it comes to news and stories, especially if they're doing really focused stories like that. Steve is one of them that you can trust. So we got to support them. We got to make sure that they're still getting their time because, they're not going to get any time from the powers that be, from the mainstream. That's just how it goes. Okay, boy, oh boy, we still got a lot of news. I don't know if I can do all of it in a short period of time. So let's just try to get through as much as possible, and we will go to our super chats as we do. We'll do that right when we hit the third hour. So we got some time here to, we'll make an attempt. We'll make a good attempt to get the rest of the news. I mentioned this earlier. I ended up just ranting and raving for a lot of the first hour, so we'll just get to this stuff now. European gas prices hit 3.5-year high as storage refills slow before winter. You're not going to see these stories on any network news here. European gas prices surge amid fears U.S.-Iran war will cause winter shortages. Why fuel prices in the Netherlands have reached record highs. Netherlands has Europe's highest gas prices. Spain has the cheapest, but both are amongst record highs. So you have to understand, guys, and I mentioned this in the first hour, the Western world, the people, not the politicians, not the corrupt politicians and media, the people in Europe and the people in America are both sick of this. They're sick of fighting and funding these foreign wars. They're sick of it. And not only are they paying it in taxes, not only are they paying it in blood, now they're paying it in the increased cost of living. Now they're paying it in the increased cost of energy and gas. They're sick of it, guys. Europe is sick of these wars. Europe is sick of the Middle East. Europe is sick of Ukraine. America's sick of the Middle East. America's sick of Ukraine. We're very in alignment right now. And you think about all the issues that we've had with our European allies, let's say. You think about all the differences we've had over the years with our friends across the pond. I look at this as a potential moment for, that's what's so frustrating. You feel like the geopolitical alignment right now, it's all very loose. It can really go any direction. And you see where the globalists want to take it. You see where the globalists want to take it in the Middle East. You see where the globalists want to take it with NATO, and they want to continue to have the European and America, these countries paying the price. We're the ones that have to do the heavy lifting. We're the ones that have to pay the price in money and in blood. But we're all sick of it. And I see a new potential. I see a new potential if we can get rid of the foreign lobby, if we can get rid of the globalists. I see a new potential for a new alignment geopolitically where we can actually have better relations with Europe. Europe can be richer. We can be richer. We can actually have strong borders, and we can get rid of all of these invaders that got brought in because of these wars. We can start to strategically look at new partnerships. Like, is there really any debate here? I suppose it's a little different for Europe, but for the United States of America, is there really any debate here, guys? Who would strategically be better allies Ukraine and Israel that offer virtually nothing except taking our money, or Russia and Iran. All these strategic advantages are the United States having a strong relationship, a partnership, or being allies with Iran and with Russia. The energy aspect, the resources, the Strait of Hormuz, all the power Russia has geographically, again, energy, militarily, all the advantages for the United States of America exist in having Iran and Russia as allies. We get nothing from Israel. We get nothing from Ukraine. All we get is a bill. All we get is our military depleted. All we get is more blood and treasure spilled in foreign lands as our country collapses. But this is why they're pushing the gas. This is why Trump is ending up as the greatest betrayer. Whether it's being done intentionally or he thinks this is smart, that's what's going to happen. We're going to end up on the wrong side of this deal, and we're going to end up isolated with Israel and Ukraine, who can't offer us a damn thing and never have. It's really frustrating. What else do we have here? Oh, this is nice. Joint Base Charleston will be renamed in honor of the late Senator Lindsey Graham. Ugh, gag me. Gag me. Supreme Court approval hits new low. Oh, nice. Is there any part of the federal government that has a high approval rating? No. No, our government is fully corrupt and sucks. And Trump's just a part of it now. Mitch McConnell. What's going on with old Mitch? Speak or resign. Governor Andy Beshear ups demand for McConnell health status. So they just keep posting these pictures and they claim, oh, he's fine. Well, it looks like the governor has had enough of that. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear demanded in a blunt letter to Senator Mitch McConnell and his staff that McConnell verbally address constituents and demonstrate his ability to serve or resign his seat. Now, I don't know. Well, let's read the ramifications here. Under Kentucky law, Senate vacancies, which can occur due to resignation, expulsion, or death, are filled by a special election. So that date is August 5th. The problem is, other than applying pressure, I don't think there's anything that the governor can do. Now, he can apply pressure to McConnell, and he can apply pressure to John Thune. And really, I think all that's going to do is just show how they're covering up the truth about Mitch McConnell, and they're trying to run out the clock because you know what it really is, guys? They don't want Senator Massey. That's what this is about. This is about Mitch McConnell's vote. If it comes down to Mitch McConnell's vote to merge our military with Israel's, that's what this is all about, is making sure they have that vote so that they can complete this merger of our military and Israel's. It's total treason, and Mitch McConnell won't know any difference at this point in the game, but that's what this is all about. And then on the other side of that, if McConnell cannot fulfill his duties by August 4th, then there's a special election. All of a sudden, Thomas Massey throws his hat in the ring. Look out. Look out. It's a lot harder for AIPAC to buy a Senate seat than it is for them to buy a House seat. It was very easy for AIPAC to target one district in Kentucky with different ad buys and propaganda where you didn't need as many votes. It's a lot bigger endeavor to try to do that statewide. And really, I think Massey's stock has probably increased since the AIPAC ouster, since the foreign lobby ouster, which could translate to a victory if he decided to run for Mitch McConnell's Senate seat in a special election. And you know that's the last thing they want. They need Mitch McConnell's vote to complete the treasonous merger of the U.S. and Israeli militaries. and they need to make sure that Thomas Massie doesn't get a chance to run and win. So now it's just a struggle session from now until August 4th. You know John Thune is leveraging this. You know John Thune is leveraging. He's saying, hey, I've got this Mitch McConnell vote sitting here. I can kind of decide where we go with this. Oh, he's leveraging that for sure. And then Bashir, he's thinking about the political ramifications of this as well. So who's tugging at Bashir right now? Who's tugging at Bashir to either make a bunch of noise or stay silent? All of this is happening. Trillions of dollars at stake, folks. Trillions of dollars, and the entire foreign lobby agenda to merge America and Israel's militaries. It's all at stake with that vote. And that's why they're playing this game and hiding Mitch McConnell and keeping the truth from the American people. We talked about this earlier. A Democrat socialist bartender, have you heard this one before? Rattles party elite in run for Wisconsin governor. Far-left candidate Francesca Hong leads polling in the state, which delivered the narrowest 2024 presidential outcome. Socialists are on the rise. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. And let's not make any assumptions. Let's look at potentials. In one of the greatest political ironies of all time, Donald Trump could end up being the catalyst that hands America over to the socialists. That is the reality of our situation. Donald Trump's second administration has been such a disaster. Donald Trump's second administration has been so unpopular that we're not talking about the victories of the free market. We're not talking about destroying the radical left and socialism in America and removing globalists from our political procedures. No, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to finish with the Trump administration and you're going to get socialism. That's how bad it is. And all these MAGA people can keep playing these games with themselves and their little butt buddies and convince themselves that that's not happening. That's exactly what's happening. If Trump was successful, if this administration was successful, Democrat socialists wouldn't be winning elections and raising in the polls in races that they have no business winning. You think a Democrat socialist has any business winning a governor's race in Wisconsin? Because it looks like it's about to happen. How about a Muslim socialist winning in Michigan? How about a Muslim socialist winning in New York City? Do you know why this is happening? Thank Donald Trump for that, guys. Donald Trump's second administration is such a failure and such a disaster and so corrupt, he's ushering in the socialists. And so at the end of the day, when I do this thing and I ask MAGA, what do you think you're going to get out of this? Are you going to get deep state arrests? Are you going to get political imprisonment, justice, all the other things that we know are the real issues? You're not going to get any of that. You're going to get socialism. You're not getting a golden age. You're not getting American independence. You're not getting a better economy. When Trump is done fucking this country, you're going to get socialists. That's what you're going to get. And I pray to God I'm wrong. I pray to God that MAGA clips this and says, oh, and you were wrong. See, Trump did drain the swamp. Trump did mass deportations. Trump did end the wars. Trump did resurge the American economy. We beat the socialists. There is nothing I want more to be proven wrong. I can't wait till that day where MAGA can rub my face in it at all the success that Trump had and how we beat the socialists. I can't wait till you guys can rub it in my face. I hope I'm wrong. But you know what? Doesn't look like I am. And with every passing week, it just keeps getting worse and worse. You know, I've got these clips. You know, I would say it like this. Take out political parties. So take out left, right, take out Republican, Democrat, take out denominations, religions, skin colors. Just take it all out and ask yourself, What does Al-Said sound like in this debate last night? Who does this sound like? Is this somebody you would support? You don't know anything about this person, Republican, Democrat. You don't know anything about this person, Christian, Jewish, Muslim. You don't know anything about this person, and you just hear this. What do you think?
Dr. Al-Sayed, what are you doing that's something that perhaps we haven't heard before in Washington that's different to keep the cost of living down? So let me just tell you, for me, it's I don't take money from the corporations who are jacking up your prices in the first place. When you're bought off by DTE and Blue Cross and Big Pharma and Big Tech and APAC, don't be surprised that there's a pro quo that comes with that quid. That money doesn't just fall off trees. $60 million from outside organizations in this race, they didn't just come from nowhere. It's because those exact same organizations expect something on the other side, and that's that they get to expect to own your next U.S. senator. So it starts with being able to say, I'm the only candidate in this race who doesn't take any money from corporations, never have, never will. And then from there, I actually can stand up to them. I can do things like enforce our antitrust policies that haven't been enforced. I can do things like tax billionaires their wealth so we can take that money and invest it in you and your kids, in your schools. I can do things like make sure that rather than sending your money somewhere else to drop bombs on other people and their kids, we can keep that money here at home. And just in case you don't believe me, just think about this. Just last week, our friend here voted to send $3.3 billion of your tax dollars to a foreign government. That is the pro quo that comes with the quid of $30 million spent by APAC. So it really comes down to how are you funded? Dr. El-Sayed, thank you.
Now, aside from the tax the billionaires thing, you take that out of that, that's Donald Trump's speech in 2016. We're going to tax billionaires out of that monologue, and you have 2016 Donald Trump campaign speech right there. I can't, it's just like, it's just like you just got ran over by a truck, guys. I just can't believe it, man. And MAGA, they're just going along for the ride, man. They're just going along for the ride. They don't even care. And they'll sit here and they'll bitch because he's a Muslim and because he's a socialist. And they won't do anything. They won't do anything to try to stop their momentum. They're just going to keep making the same mistakes, selling the country out, lying to us, new wars, foreign interest. I mean, it's just the same crap, man. It's just the same crap. It's like total Twilight Zone, man. It's like total Twilight Zone that after everything we went through, and Trump's legacy is going to be handing the country over to socialists in his final act of failure. The boomers' last gasp, turning America into a AI surveillance state data center, sending more of us to die in the Middle East, spending trillions more to die and fight in the Middle East, and then turning the country over to socialists. That's the Trump turnover. That's the boomers' last gasp. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And I told you, if I was going to go do the content, I'd have to do it to Trump supporters now. That's the only way it's going. This is exactly what I'm talking about right here.
Trump is the greatest president?
Absolutely. I mean,
Do you think he's the greatest president of all time?
I think absolutely he's the greatest president. I mean, look at he's brought all these wars to an end, 8 wars in there, and he's protecting our country from being nuked.
What were the 8 wars he stopped?
I don't know them all offhand, but he stopped them over.
Yeah. Do you know? Can you name a couple?
Tell him, Gail.
Well, yeah. What were the wars that he stopped?
Other countries. Talk to him. I'll think of them.
Yeah. Just one war that he stopped.
I can't think of one now.
Yeah. He says it.
Yeah. But he is.
We can't name one. All right. Thank you. It's Trump.
Now, guys, again, this is the exact content that I used to go out and own the libs. You go out to one of these liberal events, Democrat events, you ask them basic questions, they don't know a damn thing. That's MAGA now. That's Trump supporters now. Totally brainwashed, totally propagandized, parroting the exact talking points they're told to parrot. And they don't know anything. And it pains me. It pains me. Because I actually thought we could fix the country. I actually thought that we could go through all of this, go with the pain, and Trump could actually help us fix the country. And it's not going to happen now. And now I have to turn around. And really, MAGA was turned against us. So maybe I shouldn't feel so bad. I mean, that's what happened. MAGA got bought. The political movement got purchased. And then they turned it against patriots like me. But it does hurt. It does hurt that now I have to turn against them. And that's what it is. The political movement that we built, that we fought for, it's been bought and sold, and now it's turned against us. And so I guess this is what you have to do now. You have to go to these Trump events and show the world how they're the dumbasses now. You have to go to these Trump events and you have to show the world how they are the ones that don't know a damn thing and just parrot the same talking points just like the left did for 8 years. That's where we're at. I've been saying it for months, and there's your proof. Now, notice something else, though. Notice you're not having the same energy outside of these Trump rallies. You don't have big crowds. There's no buzz, and it's nothing but people over 60. And they don't know anything. And by the way, Trump is getting protested. I wonder if they're going to keep this up, by the way. I wonder if they're going to keep sending Trump out there to do these rallies when it's not really generating a big crowd. And now the protesters are getting in and they're protesting the data centers. They're protesting the Epstein cover-up. It happened again at Trump's rally yesterday. So everywhere he goes, dozens of protesters are able to get in, and there's not many Trump supporters there. So the protesters are actually able to kind of, throw a wrench into the event. What a disaster, guys. This is what we're talking about today. What a disaster. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. You know what? Let's do this since we have the Fauci stuff tomorrow morning. Trump turns up the heat on RFK Jr. to cut back childhood vaccines. President is focused on shots alleged tie to autism, even though the White House advisors wanted to tone down attention to the issue ahead of midterms. So I'm wondering why Trump is pressuring Kennedy on this. Maybe it's because Trump is desperate for some good press since he's lost the Make America Healthy Again movement, since he's stabbed Make America Healthy Again in the back multiple times. Maybe he thinks that this is a way to try to win them back. So he's sending RFK Jr. out there to do the work. Multiple people have this story. Trump's Oval Office humiliation of RFK Jr. is leaked. The president is pressuring his health secretary to prove a debunked claim surrounding vaccines. Now, here's kind of what I've been hearing for a while is that, RFK is sticking around. He's still a true believer, and he still figures that whatever decisions Trump is making that might hurt the Maha movement, RFK Jr. still believes there's good that he can do if he stays. He still believes there's good that can be done if he stays, and so he's going to stay. But he's virtually been completely put on the sideline. He virtually doesn't get really any say, any access to the Trump administration. And it's mostly because, the foreign policy runs everything. There is no domestic agenda, really. There's no Maha. There's just the foreign policy advisors. So there's really no room for RFK Jr. But now Trump needs some good press. And so he's telling RFK Jr. to get out there and give me some good press on vaccines. Well, it's too late. But RFK will probably try to do something for President Trump on that front. And all of this with Fauci, who is about to testify tomorrow morning. And RFK Jr. reveals on Fox News he thinks Fauci actually suffered a vaccine side effect.
He got vaccinated, a very, very public press conference in January of 2020. And then 5 months later, he had, and this is the first time that we knew this from the diary, he had a pulmonary infarction, which is one of the adverse events that NIH, CDC, and FDA said are expected from the vaccine. He never told anybody. He got treated for it privately by the best doctors in America. At the same time, he was telling everybody that that was not an adverse event. He got vaccinated.
So I imagine somebody will ask Fauci this. Now, RFK Jr. has also said that Fauci can be prosecuted on perjury despite the pardon if he lies in front of Rand Paul. Now, okay, let's talk about tomorrow and the big Fauci hearing. There's so many factors at play. Let's look at the Senate factor. This is a Senate hearing. You have the midterms in 98 days. Fauci is kind of a punching bag right now. I don't really think there's any desire to protect Fauci on either side of the aisle. And scoring political points with 98 days till the midterms is something these senators are going to have in mind. They're going to be thinking about, how can I get Fauci? Or maybe they think supporting Fauci is the way. I don't know. But that's how they're going to look at this. The senators are going to look at this as, this is my big chance to score points ahead of the midterms for my party. So maybe the Democrats think supporting Fauci is the way to go. I don't know. The Republicans are obviously going to be looking to grill him. They're going to be looking to cook Fauci on the grill here. So Fauci now, he's obviously speaking to lawyers about perjury, about the pardon, about, what can he say, what can't he say, and how to handle this. So who knows his level of nervousness, but there's no doubt that RFK Jr. and Rand Paul here are cranking up the heat. I mean, they're cranking that heat on Fauci before this thing goes down to try to throw him off. So I expect there to be some pretty serious haymakers. Now, the other interesting thing that has kind of just developed in the last couple of days, the Fauci and Trump feud, these two are not getting along well. I think that that's probably the reality of the situation. But now Fauci realizes that his last lifeline could be Donald Trump. But Trump also realizes that if Fauci goes down, so does Trump. So there's all kinds of weird factors at play for this hearing tomorrow, which a lot of people in the political world are seeing as must-see TV. Now, let's go back. This is from January 19th, 2021. Okay? Right before Trump leaves office, President Trump awards presidential commendations to Operation Warp Speed Team, including, but not limited to, one, Dr. Fauci. So Trump gave awards to Fauci. Fauci was Trump's COVID czar for all intents and purposes. So anything Fauci goes down for, he takes Trump down with him. And a new interesting ripple here from Thomas Massey last night. One of the reasons it's hard for Trump to come to terms with the United States government role in creating COVID is Trump funded coronavirus research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China for the first 3 years of his term. He ended it on April 24th, 2020. Now think about that. This is an interesting one. The problem with these hearings, it's so strange. You have these high hopes for our members of Congress, and it's like there's so many questions that obviously need to be asked and answered, and then somehow they don't ask them. Like, our congressmen are not very bright when we have big hearings like this, and they never seem to ask the right questions. Somebody needs to bring this up right here, because to me, I see this. They all knew, folks. They all knew it came out of that lab. Probably when we knew in January. If we knew in January, they knew in January. I don't know. Maybe we're even ahead of the White House on these things. Trump ended the funding of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where the virus came from, in April of 2020, meaning to me, they knew. They knew, And that's why they did not renew that funding, because they knew. Fauci had to have some sort of role or even knowledge of this decision. I hope somebody brings that up in the hearing. Now, there's been, Rand Paul has pointed out some of the fighting, let's say, between Fauci and Trump. Fauci has been saying some bad things about Trump, and now Trump has returned the favor. So we'll see how that one plays out. So this is a crazy one, guys. Do you know who Desiree Townsend is? Desiree Townsend. This is a throwback. Well, she's out there now in the DC media, and she's getting these exclusives on the Mitch McConnell situation. And so who is this Desiree Townsend that is so close to this situation now? And she's all over the vaccine story as well. Well, Desiree has a history here, actually. And almost 20 years ago, Desiree was part of I believe it was an NBC News piece, and she was called the Flu Shot Cheerleader. She was a Washington Redskins, that's Washington, D.C. I feel that that's not irrelevant for this conversation, that she's a cheerleader in Washington, D.C., the most corrupt city in America. And she claimed that she had a vaccine injury that caused her, basically she had Guillain-Barré syndrome, unless she was walking backwards, and then she could walk backwards and talk. But if she wasn't walking backwards, she essentially was completely handicapped. And so
you might not remember Desiree Townsend, but what about the Flu Shot Cheerleader, a 2009 media sensation and early viral meme? This field was assigned with nothing goes now too. She claimed she'd been injured by a seasonal flu shot, that it caused a twisted, jerking walk that disappeared when she ran or went backwards. The anti-vaccine movement was struggling, but saw an opportunity and embraced her as its new poster girl.
That's Desiree. Hi, nice to meet you.
So you may remember that. Now, a doctor that she was working with at the time, who has been called out by Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, and it looks like Shiva was on it again. So, so here she is, Washington, D.C. cheerleader, does this weird stunt about a flu vaccine injury. Now she's okay, and she's back on the D.C. scene talking about vaccines and getting Mitch McConnell exclusives. Guys, I don't know. I have no idea what the hell is going on here. Okay, I have no clue. This is totally directionless, but what in the hell? What in the hell? What is going on, guys? How do you can't even make this stuff up. Now, I remember in 2008 when this went viral, and that's because I was always kind of an internet kid. So like viral stuff would always make it into my, into my consciousness. And I remember I brought it up at a family, I don't know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever, because my family likes to have debates. Believe it or not, my family does political debates when we get together. I know that might shock you. And so we'll do health debates, whatever, vaccine debates. And I remember bringing that up at my aunt and uncle's house over some holiday gathering. And there was a huge debate about whether she was faking it or not. This is like, what world am I living in, man? Where a Washington, D.C. cheerleader gets the most viral anti-vaccine video ever. And it's hard to believe it's not fake. I mean, let's just be honest. It's hard to think that is even real. And then she pops back up on the scene when the anti-vax movement is actually getting legitimate ground. And now she pops back up all of a sudden with a Mitch McConnell exclusive. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but that doesn't seem organic to me. I'll tell you that. Hey, you remember when we went to war in Venezuela because of the drugs, guys? Of course, that was a big lie. But remember that? How about this? Nearly 1.7 tons of illegal drugs seized in one of the largest drug busts by weight in Ontario. These were drugs that were going over the American-Canada border. They were coming from America into Canada. The Americans attempted to move 1.7 tons of illegal drugs into Canada. But hey, guys, we got the Venezuela guy. You know what? They released this. I think this is the Trump administration working with Ellison and Barry Weiss and her little pick-me guy who got the exclusive Tony Doku pill. So the Trump administration gave CBS, Paramount, Larry Ellison, Barry Weiss this exclusive, apparently 70 hours of classified Joe Biden recordings, and CBS has at least 2 hours of them. And so there's definitely some juicy stuff here, but clearly this is the Trump administration working in unison to run propaganda through Larry Ellison and Barry Weiss at CBS. Maybe we'll get back to that. It's not like it's anything we didn't know. It's just more proof of the Biden crime family, and the Trump administration does nothing for it. So, by the way, you remember how the Trump administration claimed that they fired the statistics chief at the Office of Homeland Security? Well, he's come out today. He says he quit. He says he quit because of the Trump war on immigrants. So Trump fired him. He quits. Whatever. It's a damn clown show, man. It's a damn clown show. Knox County Mayor. Do you know who that is? Do you know who the Knox County Mayor is? That would be one Glenn Jacobs, formerly known as Kane from the WWE. Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs asks the county commission to ban the use of automated license plate readers such as flock cameras until federal or state regulations are in place. Total victory for Glenn Jacobs. You can read his statement here. Point is, Glenn Jacobs smart. Glenn Jacobs part of the people, the patriot movement, and he says, not in my county, flock, not in my county, surveillance state, at least for now. By the way, Edward Snowden is warning on this. What is this really all about? You might want to listen to Ed Snowden. He knows a thing or two.
What they call the social credit system. If any of these family photos, if any of your activities online, if your purchases, if your associations, if your friends are in any way different from what the government or the powers that be of the moment would like them to be, you're no longer able to purchase train tickets. You're no longer able to board an airplane. You may not be able to get a passport. You may not be eligible for a job. You might not be able to work for the government. All of these things are increasingly being created and programmed and decided by algorithms. And those algorithms are fueled by precisely the innocent data that our devices are creating all of the time, constantly, invisibly, quietly, right now. Our devices are casting all of these records that we do not see being created, that in aggregate seem very innocent. You were at Starbucks at this time. You went to the hospital afterwards. You spent a long time at the hospital. After you left the hospital, you made a phone call. You made a phone call to your mother. You talked to her until the middle of the night. The hospital was an oncology clinic. Even if you can't see the content of these communications, the activity records, what the government calls metadata, which they argue they do not need a warrant to collect, tells the whole story. And these activity records are being created and shared and collected and intercepted constantly by companies and governments. And ultimately, it means as they sell these, as they trade these, as they make their businesses on the backs of these records, what they are selling is not information. What they are selling is us. They're selling our future. They're selling our past. They are selling our history, our identity, and ultimately they are stealing our power and making our stories work for them.
And they're building a Chinese-style surveillance state. That was Ed Snowden about 10 years ago. By the way, Mark Zuckerberg, it looks like, has secured another database. Zuckerberg's Meta secured blanket tax breaks. Oh, that's what Abbott is doing here in Texas. He's giving the data centers tax breaks. We still pay an exorbitant property tax, but the data centers, they don't. That's nice for them. So Zuckerberg's Meta with how many yachts does he have? 4 or 5? Zuckerberg's yachts have a yacht. I'm not even kidding. Zuckerberg's yacht has its own yacht that follows it around. So that's nice. He's doing well. But he's going to get a tax break, subsidized infrastructure, and favorable utility terms through secret negotiations with Louisiana officials for its gargantuan $50 billion AI data center. And of course, Trump works with Zuckerberg now. Zuckerberg is now part of the Trump coalition. And so Zuckerberg is helping Trump build the AI surveillance state. Good job, MAGA. Way to go. Ukrainian journalist Diana Panchenko is addressing the Laura Loomer trip to Ukraine. Now, recently, as I said, she was seen at this D-Tech tech logistics production facility where they make drones. And of course, she's picturing herself with the drones. Now, Diana here is reporting, she's alleging that Loomer was paid by a Ukrainian oligarch named Akhmatov. I believe it's Ratin Akhmatov. I forget his first name. But this guy is a Ukrainian oligarch. You know, this is part of the Ukrainian corruption. And she highlights his different expenditures, his net worth and all of this stuff, all the corruption of these Ukrainian oligarchs. But here's what's funny about the allegation that it's Akhmatov that has paid Loomer. Now, I will say, I was getting tips on who was funding Laura quite a bit ago. This was off record, and these were just tips of people that are a lot closer than I am to the situation. So let's just say this this seems like it might be very much within the realm of possibility, and Loomer will have to address who's paying her or not. And I don't think this would be the only instance where she may have to answer some questions, but we'll see. But here's the irony. So this Ukrainian oligarch, Akhmatov, guess what, guys? He's Muslim. That's right. No, Laura Loomer wouldn't be taking money from a Muslim. No, Laura Loomer wouldn't be selling out the country and switching stances on foreign policy for Muslim money. No way. It couldn't be. How about that? How about that? All right. We're going to move on to our super chats before we sign off. Thanks to everybody following us on YouTube, guys. Remember to give us a follow, give us a like, a subscribe on YouTube. That means a lot. That helps us grow the show. It's really the only place where I'm allowed to grow. I'm not allowed to grow on X. You know, Rumble kind of reaches a max capacity. We do well on the audio archives, but the show isn't live there, so it doesn't really grow the show much when you go listen to the audio archive on Spotify or iHeartRadio or on iTunes. The place where this show grows and does the best right now is YouTube. So please support us there. Give us a like, give us a follow. The Owen Report on YouTube. Thank you for that. Let's go now to our super chats. Steph Anklin, pre-planned elective C-sections over natural birth. No, I don't like that. I have to disagree with that. Captain, everybody got the call to say the same thing. If you vote for Democrats, the country will be ruined. And it's just like, what are you talking about? It's already ruined. Republicans made it worse. Well, that's the irony, is that when Democrats are in power, Republicans complain about all of these issues, and they, you know, they'll pretend like, oh, the country's in dire straits. And then Republicans win. None of the issues change, but all of a sudden everything's great. Stop complaining. And that's, of course, why the country never gets any better, because of these conservacucks, because of these fake patriots. Ships have gotten through. You can see it on the marine traffic. Also, Iran has a railway that goes directly to Russia and China. He's just saying crap. Yes. Yes, definitely the latter is confirmed. Iran has the highest IQ after China. That's a fact. They think we're fighting people with AKs and flip-flops, which is why this will be a forever war. Yeah, the propaganda, look, I'm not here supporting Iran's leadership, obviously. But the propaganda or the cover up of the true nature of Iran is part of this equation, is that they just hope that you're a retard and you don't know the reality of the situation in Iran. You think you're dealing with a bunch of cavemen Muslims. You think you're dealing with a bunch of women in, hijabs. And that's just not the case. Iran is a large country, smart people, strong, long infrastructure, long history. You know what's funny, too, about all this? And I was thinking about it, and this is kind of the beauty of the internet, when you can talk to people all around the world, if you can break through the language barriers. You know, if I grabbed a group of people from this, let's say in the chat today, I grabbed a group of, say, 10 people, and you grabbed 10 people from China, you grabbed 10 people from Ukraine, you grabbed 10 people from Russia, you grabbed 10 people from Iran, you grabbed 10 people from Israel, we'd probably all get along just fine. In fact, people still travel to all of these countries. People still travel to the countries we're at war with, and we all get along just fine. And it just shows you how fake it is. It just shows you how fake the wars are, and it's people that live a lifestyle that we don't even really comprehend. They have so much power, they have so much wealth, they have so much influence. It's basically a different species, really. It's like a totally different species. And that's how they view themselves, by the way. They look at us as just cannon fodder, just slaves. And that's why the whole thing is so corrupt now. But it just shows you, it's like you could go travel to any of these countries and you would get along just fine. Everything would be great. But our leaders have us at war 24/7, but the people don't like the war. The people don't have these issues. It's just our corrupt leaders all over the world. But yeah, the Iran propaganda is heavy here, and it's sad to see that Americans still fall for it. But what are you going to do? I'm going to try to do a show. I'm going to try to do a news show that maybe helps them out. Dust Vault, let's take a big step back and look at the state of the world through a global macro lens. This is a global war on the middle class. What were Trump and Obama laughing about at Dick Cheney's funeral? Well, I don't know, but yes, definitely a war on the middle class. The have and have-nots is basically all it's coming down to in the United States of America. And that's why the Trump administration is so blind to this, because they just assume everybody has access to cash and capital to get richer, and they just don't. It's like, oh, well, you don't have $100,000 to buy insider trading information from Trump? Oh, guess what? Socialists are winning now. Good job, Trump. America is always forgotten. I feel forgotten. That's all right, Anna. We will have our moment. We thought it was going to be with Trump. Not looking like it, but we will. We are inevitable. We are inevitable. They got us with Trump. I think they probably tricked us good with Trump, but we are inevitable. America first is inevitable. America only is inevitable. And we'll never forget this time, by the way. We will never forget what we have witnessed in the last 10 years. And we're taking names and we're taking notes. And we will never forget. And we will use this experience and this information to build a better union and to not make the same mistakes again. And to not let people creep in and infiltrate and sabotage everything we've built. Not Americanism. Yeah, Israel, not America, will be our credo. That needs to be Trump's new tagline. Stoops, the Israel crap is just sheep herding operation. The left has the DSA and the right will flock to Tucker's new party. Both support technocrat policy. The storm is coming, Jack. Huh. Tick-tock, tick-tock, arrests are coming. They keep teasing this. It's like, do they ever feel bad? Like, do these people ever feel bad that they tease justice is coming? They tease arrests and indictments and all this other stuff, and nothing happens? Here you go. Hey, I hope it happens. Like, again, prove me wrong. I'll never be happier. I'll never be happier if Trump actually does what he says he was going to do and Q ends up being real and we get all the arrests. I'll be thrilled. It's like the entire purpose of what I do here. Guys, tomorrow, it will be a week since Trump's big stolen election address. It'll be a week. No indictments, no arrests, nothing. Just a speech to push the Save America Act to cover up the merger of our military with Israel. And that's all it was. And remember, after that speech, don't forget the hype. Oh, this is it. We got him now. Arrests are coming. Indictments are coming. Oh, if we don't get arrests now, it's over. If Trump doesn't give him an arrest now, we'll call him out. Silence. Nothing. No arrests, no indictments, and all the people that talk to big game like, oh, they have to have arrests after this. No. Nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. Who is amazed? It is all written in the Bible, so it makes sense why seemingly huge majority of people are mentally restricted, lacking the ability to see what's going on. The deceivers are pretty creative in evil ways. You guys are going to get me in trouble with these chats. I got to be smart. What are all the Nick Sorters, Posos, Cat Turds, and Gunthers going to do when the Republicans are out of business? Are they going to just try and attack the left for clicks? What will Larry Loomer do? Well, that's what they're doing right now. But, just be careful. Just be careful. Don't judge everybody too harshly. I understand why, and they are in charge of their own reputation. But not all of them are that bad, and some of them are just kind of doing what they got to do right now. They don't know what else to do. That will be the reckoning. That will be the reckoning if the Republicans lose the midterms. That will be the reckoning. And then you'll see who's really providing value as far as political commentary is concerned. How come all the special forces bros don't mention anything about these special interests? They fought these wars and steal valor from regular soldiers and are dead silent on Israel. How, why, what? Well, I don't think that's accurate. I see a lot of them speaking out. It's not in many of these guys' natures to be publicly outspoken. That's just not who they are. But there are plenty of them that have big YouTube channels. There are plenty of them that are growing big audiences right now, big X accounts right now. So I don't think they're dead silent at all. I think that they're actually very loud, but it's not really getting much amplification. Because honestly, most of them are more awake than any of us. And more pissed. I mean, have you seen Rob O'Neill? Have you seen Sean Ryan? Like, that's how they talk, guys. Ron DeSantis rebuilt a bridge 3 days after the hurricane. That's true. Somehow he did it. The tree of liberty is thirsty, Ty. Naza, Owen, are you going to put your I voted sticker on with your I voted hat in the midterms and post a story talking about how you did your part? I'm going to talk about how hard I voted. I voted so long and so hard and so deep. I trust this guy. I trust elections. I trust polls. I'm assuming that's about our guest, Rich, earlier today. Good interview. Are the Democrats in control? Why the Republicans stay in power? I was actually better under Biden, but Republicans are better. Clown world, they're the same. You'll come running back to orange fat. I'm getting a little tan myself here, huh? A little tan going here. Always happens, man. The summer just flies by. Guys, summer is not much longer. Some of you out there, your summer's about to come to an end in a couple of weeks. God bless you. Great guest, great show. Always hitting it out of the park with your political analysis. Thank you, Ivan. And I thought I was afraid of Kamala. She's going to run again. I think it's a fool's errand, but she can't help it. She just wants to be on the stage. She just wants to be talked about again. If she actually does, I think she will. And then she'll get so smashed in the primary. It'll actually be hilarious. Owen, whatever happened to Dr. Diane Kaiser? I would love to see another call-in collab with her. Oh, that's a throwback right there. Ebu backs. Owen, the reason we can't be allies with Russia and Iran is because the world would have virtually no wars. Duh. And what would we do without no wars? What would we do with all the death and destruction not existing? Great point. Thank you for pointing that out. How foolish of me. Got to have war, right? Can't exist without war. Will the DSA go anti-vax? That probably depends on how Trump handles that. If Trump stays kind of neutral or anti-vax, then they'll stay pro-vax. If Trump comes out like very pro-vax, then they could They could go anti-vax. The left used to be anti-vax, by the way, which is like the irony of it all. Like Maha used to be a leftist thing, like, you know, organic foods, whole foods, all that stuff. That used to be like leftist, liberal, hippie stuff. But they were right. They were right about a lot of stuff. So it kind of got absorbed into mainstream, and then the right wing kind of took it over because the left went, you know, total big pharma shill. Panda, thank you for being you. Hope you have a good rest of the evening. We appreciate you. Thank you, Panda. Dropped a penny. The pendulum will swing. Good, but not good. It's just a matter of time, guys. I have no doubt. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know how we're going to get there. I don't know what we're going to have to go through. But I have no doubt we will have our time. We will have our day. The American patriots will eventually take back our government. We'll eventually do what needs to be done. Again, I don't even know. I'm not telling you what or how or who or anything. It's inevitable. The American people are too good of a people. They care about themselves, their families, their future, and the country too much. They're not going to get away with this. We're still really kind of in the beginning phases of this, guys. Trump ended up being a major setback, but we're going to save this country. We are going to save this country. I just hope we don't have to fight against robots and an AI surveillance system when the day comes. And it looks like that's what Trump is trying to clamp us down into. You know, Trump tried to bring in the world government tyranny with COVID. We fought against that. We won. Trump's probably going to try to bring in the AI surveillance state to keep us down. We'll see how that one goes. We'll see. That does it for today's show. Long show today, so that means we'll take a 20-hour break. We'll do it same time, same channel tomorrow. God bless, Godspeed.